This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Afternoon with the saddle-billed stork that's in amongst the herds of impala and wildebeest for some random reason, although the dam is not too far away, so I suppose it's not that big a surprise. My name's Tristan. On camera I've got David.
Hello.
Hello, David.
Hello.
Are we going to get lucky this afternoon, David? Oh, wonderful. Excellent. Well, we're coming to you live from South Africa, and you can see that we've started off quite nicely. We have some wildebeest, we have some impalas, we have a saddle-billed stork. There was even some warthogs here just now, and they've run down towards the dam there. So we'll spend a bit of time in this area before we get going. Remember, we've started a bit later this afternoon, so we won't have nearly as much daylight. So I want to try and just get to certain places before we lose that. We're going to have a long shift in the dark this afternoon, especially with a bit of cloud cover. Should be a good hour and 45 minutes of darkness, so hopefully find something before that. Now remember, because we are coming to you live, we need all of you to interact with us, otherwise it's a quiet 4 hours. So if you ask lots of questions, then it makes it very entertaining for us as well as all of you at home. And so you can do so on hashtag WildEarth on Twitter, at FC on YouTube, any of the comments boxes of the various platforms we stream to, website, as well as kiddies. You can send your questions through to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. I think that's everything. That is everything, David. Very good. Wonderful. Now, I'm not sure why the saddle-billed stork is all the way out there. Generally, saddle-billed storks are poking around in mud and water, so quite unusual that a saddle-billed would be sitting away from its partner, which is in the water at the moment, and away from the water itself. Maybe it's just decided it's got a little kind of friendship complex and wants to just come hang out with everybody else. Either that, or, well, just feels like having a bit of a rest away from the water. Maybe its feet got cold. It was cold this morning. It feels like a completely different day. Oh, there goes an orange-tipped butterfly. I haven't seen one of those in ages. That's nice. I'm sure we're going to get lots and lots of butterflies and insects and things after this bit of rain we've had, and there's more rain expected from this evening until 2 days' time. So I'm pretty sure we're going to get a bit of wind this afternoon is what I would expect, and then colder weather to roll in by the evening and tomorrow morning. Hopefully it doesn't rain this afternoon, because we've gone without our rain roofs. Sunshine now, so we're banking on that being the case, and the forecast reckons that the rain will only be much later this evening. So we have a bit of an interesting gamble. We'll see how it all plays out, but I'm hoping we'll win this particular gamble and we won't get rained on. And even if we do, well, it's the way life goes and the way the cookie crumbles. Nice to see all these wildebeest, though. Our little Djuma herd has grown so much. We used to only have, I think it was down to like 8, I think, or 7, somewhere there, maybe 9, I don't know, somewhere around there. And it's now, looks like well over 20 individuals that we've got in this grouping. It might be because of the winter period that another herd has joined this herd, and this male has now taken over a whole bunch more females. That could be the one reason. Otherwise, it could be just that they had a really good breeding season last year, and a lot of the young ones survived. But if you actually look through the herd, there's not a lot of small babies. There's only 1, 2, 3 that I can see that are young. So it's not that as much as I think he's been able to secure himself some more females. But it bodes well for the herd going forward, because hopefully they'll produce quite a few this year again, and we'll end up with a nice sort of flush of new babies in the group, and hopefully some of those survive and the group just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. They have a bit of a tough time, I must be honest, these guys, because a lot of lions and things that hang around this area, particularly around quarantine, so it keeps them busy. Right, I was saying that the weather could be a little bit up and down this afternoon, so talking of which, let's send you across to the weather for our various locations this afternoon.
Afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, and it is a very good afternoon because the sun is finally shining. My name is Lauren. I do have Impo on camera. He's very quiet when we're live, but when we're not live, he talks the entire time. I promise. Anyway, look at the glorious skies. I am over the moon. I know the rain is important, and I love the rain. I love what it does. I love the smell. I love the taste. I actually love the sound. But to be out on a safari vehicle, it's not the most pleasant experience. So I promise you all today I'm not going to complain about the heat. I normally do, but today I'm going to savor it. I'm going to cherish it and enjoy this lovely day. It's not overbearing. There's a really nice breeze coming through. And it's just glorious to see blue skies. And obviously we're out a little bit later today, which is very, very delightful. So it's just a tiny little bit cooler. It's going to cool down quickly, naturally, because it's later. It's not so much fun when you go out and it's stifling hot. My plans for today are to find animals. Any animal. We have a lot of spiders out in camp. Not sure how I feel about that. Had a millipede this morning. I can see some butterflies fluttering around, so it may be insects. Maybe elephants, and it may be anything that I can find. You never know. I did hear elephants around our rooms not so long ago, and I've been around Gallagher, no luck. So they must be in that block. So I'm going to loop around because I would really, really like to see elephants again. Shall we bumble Impo? Because he's so loud. I don't know what to do when he's that loud, Impo. Yes, elephants, here we come. I can see their tracks on the Gallagher Road, so what I think has happened is that they've already came to Gallagher Pan for water. That's why we heard them, and they've moved off again. Elephants disappear surprisingly quick into the thicket. Look at that little bee eater. You see that, Impo? 3 o'clock. Never get tired of seeing that coloration. Hello, beautiful. Green is actually my favorite color, any shade. Sage, lime, apple, mint, khaki. What other shades of green are there? Either way, I love them all. And the little bee eaters are of course around. Impo, I'm doing something very naughty. I've got my foot on the brake. I'm going to let go. Sorry. I always get scolded for that. Little bee eaters are around all year. And I get very excited when I know the carmines are going to arrive. I saw them for the first time last year up in Buffelshoek. Magnificent. Very, very similar in shape, a little bit larger, but the coloration is completely different. Pinks. Blush and red and... I don't know if I'm going to go through all the descriptive words for pink. But you get the point. There's another one there. Do you see it? 1 o'clock. There you go. Okay, we're going to keep bumbling around and hopefully catch sight of these elephants.
With our wildebeest, it's all very gentle paced. It's a fairly warm afternoon, all things considered. You know, this morning was cold and we finished our drive still in jackets and jerseys, and this afternoon has definitely got a bit of warmth to it. So I think that's why everything's come down towards the water, just to have a bit of a drink and kind of enjoy the new little green shoots that are coming through. It's actually quite amazing when you look down in the grass. You don't see it very easily, but there's lots of little green shoots popping through this dry grass. But I think it'll be nice just to sit and listen to some of the sounds of the early afternoon. Oh, look at that, David. I haven't seen those guys in a while. Wattled starlings. See them in front of this wildebeest here around its head. They're all walking around there. That's cool. We're generally around herds. I think I wonder if with the buffalo being around has brought them in. Like I say, it's been a while since I've seen them on Djuma. They're not uncommon in the Kruger system, but I just haven't seen a lot of them on Djuma of late. They get the name from that little black wattle, which I'm sure hopefully we can see at some point on the male. Nice bit of birding around here. Saddle-billed storks, wattled starlings, all the rarer things that we get in this area. Beautifully still, isn't it, this afternoon? You might hear a bit of a clicking sound. That's just the Vuyatela camp, the fence that's clicking. We're right up against the camp at the moment, so if you do hear that, that's what that is. Alright, we'll continue to sit with these guys for a little while longer, and then we'll start to carry on and go and head a little bit further east. Well, still with the herd and still with the saddle-billed storks and some other little birds. There's some wattled starlings that are actually here, which has been a while since I've seen them. We're just talking about it just now. Some nice little birds that are out this afternoon. And the birds are going to get really good now with this little bit of rain that we've had and I think a bit of wind. I wouldn't be surprised we start to hear Diedrich's and Klaas's cuckoo any day now, and then followed by the woodland kingfishers. They should start being visible pretty soon too. It's crazy to think we're almost, well, we are in October now. I was about to say we're almost in October, but we've crossed that threshold. It's crazy to think that we're in October. The year is fast disappearing. Really cool to see them. Always generally around herd animals, so they like to hang around wildebeest and buffalo and those kinds of things where they can just forage off all the insects that are disturbed by these guys. So a very common place to see them is around the herds. But like I say, we just haven't seen a lot on Djuma. I can't remember the last sighting of wattled starlings I've had here. I think it was last year, maybe this year, I don't know. All blends into one after a while. It becomes tricky to remember which year you saw what. It's not always that easy, especially when you're getting old and decrepit like I am. Why are you laughing, David? You've also joined the 30s club. Don't laugh. Did it change your life much?
I'm sure it will.
You sure it will? But not yet?
Not just yet.
Oh, okay, wonderful. As long as you're not feeling the effects yet, then you're standing in good stead.
Not decrepit just yet.
You're not decrepit just yet? I don't know why it's coming. No, I'm not decrepit either, I must be honest. Still a bit of kick left in me. So, well, I hope so, at least. It would be pretty sad if it wasn't the case. But hopefully it will be. It's a beautiful afternoon this afternoon. It's just nice to see some sunshine and not to feel like we're about to be rained on. Been pretty dingy weather yesterday and this morning. Although the forecast is not exactly promising or exciting for the next week. Lots of overcast cold days coming our way, and then it starts to warm up again after that. So I didn't enjoy these wildies, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to head off shortly, because what I want to do is I want to head to the east, just because, like I was saying, we're not going to have a lot of daylight this afternoon. Even though there is a bit of sunshine, there's still a cloud layer to the west, and so when the sun gets behind that, it's going to reduce the light pretty quickly. And because we're finishing much later this evening, we're only going to be finishing at around 7:30 our time. It gets dark. Well, yesterday it was already dark at about 5 to 6 because of the cloud. So it means we've got quite a long period of darkness. And so what I want to try and do is try and get to an area, if we want to find tracks, that we actually have a little bit of time to work. because otherwise if we potter about here for too long, we're going to end up in a situation where we're not going to have enough time to actually get somewhere, see tracks and even follow them, and that way it will make our life a lot harder. Spotting things in the dark is always a lot more difficult than seeing things in the daylight. David, so we're going to try to see if we can get a closer visual of that saddleboard stalk.
Let's
Okay,
give it a go.
let's go. I'm sure it's a pair that is here. It's interesting, we've only been seeing one in the last couple of days, and all of a sudden there's two, which is good. I hope it's a boy and a girl. I hope it's not two boys that are looking for a mate and haven't found one, and that's why they're on opposite ends of the dam. Either that or there's a lover's quarrel that's going on here, David. Somebody's in the dog box. There's one saddleboard is down this side, and there's a whole dam, some impala and wildebeest onto the other side of the saddleboard. Okay, I don't know if these guys will stay sitting, but I'm going to try and see if I can thread through the wildebeest without disturbing them, causing them to stand up. No, you can stay down, little one. Don't worry. I'm not going to do anything. Would have been good for the dam cam, these wildebeest. They're sitting right underneath it, which is very pleasant for those of you that watch the dam cam. Some impalas that have come in. I don't know where the warthogs went. They were in the corner there, but they look like they've left. Did you see where the saddleboard stalk feather is? What is interesting is since we've had this rain, all the giraffes seem to have disappeared. We had so many giraffe a few days ago, but now it seems like they're all gone. Is it sitting? Yeah, it is sitting. Well, it's got its legs bent, which is often how stalks sit, as with bent legs almost at right angles to the ground. So it's like they sit on there. If you were to kind of put your arms down in front of you and you lean on your forearms, that would be how they sit with their legs. For some reason very comfortable for them. Certainly not that comfortable as a human to do it. What is known as a plank, hey David? Not as comfortable, is it? No. Although I get the sense that we should be doing more of those, David. You and I. Probably. Nice to see a saddleboard stalk. Let's have a look if it's a boy or a girl. So it is a boy that we have here. You can see no pale eye, just a dark eye, and there should be some little wattles underneath there if you lifted his chin a little bit. Okie dokie. Well, we're going to carry on. You can also see his little red feet in the grass. We're going to carry on. We're going to go head eastwards. Like I say, let's try to see if we can find any signs of Marips or Tandi or Klalamba. Hopefully we'll have a bit of luck.
Good afternoon and welcome to Bushwalk. The last 28 minutes we've been flat out trailing on these elephants that we see in front of us. These guys were walking quite fast and they eventually stopped to catch a breathe and have a little bit of a snack. So my name is JP LaRue and behind the camera we've got BK. I'm going to make my introduction very brief this afternoon and just rather focus on what the elephants are up to. For the moment you can see that they're eating a lot of these dry grasses that they're just pulling out with their trunks. You'll also notice that they smack the grasses against their legs to get rid of the excess sand, because sand eventually will damage the molar teeth. For those of you that are new to the show, molar teeth for an elephant is incredibly important, and they've got 6 sets of these molar teeth throughout their life. And once they lose the last set, it means no more feeding. And it eventually will lead to the animal actually starving. And it's roughly at the age of 60 to 65 when they lose that last set. It seems that our elephants are moving on. We've been battling to keep up at the pace at which they're walking, so we're not going to try and stick any longer with them. Okay, there's one of them actually coming back into the picture, actually moving towards our left now. There's approximately 5 bulls that we've counted. And when we did see them, they were all equal in size, and we quickly had a look at the head profile, which is all round in shape compared to that of a cow. and that's why we made the deduction. But we're actually looking at a bachelor herd. Quite often these bachelor herds are led by a very old bull, and there's one of the bulls that are actually standing out in terms of size compared to the others. He generally associates with these youngsters and will teach them a lot of different behaviors which elephant should exhibit. But at the same time, he also uses them as a screen to protect himself against potential threats. What I've noticed about them is that the whole afternoon they're actually walking into the wind. That is that they can actually detect scents of predators and other things that might disturb them. And one of the things that disturb elephants very rapidly is actually lion. So for us, it actually worked in our favor because we could simply sneak up from behind, walk the whole 2.7 kilometers with them without being detected by them smelling us. Elephants actually have got phenomenally good smell, and I also find it amazing how they can actually smell water over incredibly big distances. I think we've lost our visual of our elephants. We're just going to try and see if we can get one last glimpse at them. We're still just walking down one of these footpaths, and what I'm doing is I'm sticking onto the grass where I can make minimal noise because the grass has already been trampled. And what we want to be careful of is not stepping on twigs and branches because that creates a noise. And that little branch that snaps, that's what they actually pick up quite often if you are trailing them. So we also used a number of different methods to actually follow them this afternoon. One is we actually used the local terrain in our favor. We also fought like an elephant would think by firstly going to a waterhole and then from there on tracking the physical track. At a few opportunities we actually lost the tracks, and then we were using feeding signs which was left behind by them to actually locate them. We also made use of our hearing because quite often you do hear them actually breaking branches while they're feeding. However, when they're walking, they're actually dead quiet. Our elephants have now moved in a fairly thick area right over here, which is best that we avoid. So I'm going to back off from here and rather go back onto my trail to prevent them from smelling us and go and see what else we can go and find. So when you are following dangerous animals, it's always best to avoid thick vegetated areas, such as reed beds, thickets, and very tall grasses where you can potentially get yourself into trouble. And meanwhile, let's go and see what Tristan is up to.
Right, well, I haven't gotten very far at all since you last saw us. We just kind of crossed the dam wall and are on Central at the moment. It's just going nice and slow, hoping, beyond all hope, that the little Princess Kalamba makes an appearance somewhere as well. I've seen her once, almost 3 weeks now, which is pretty shocking. So yeah, no idea even where she is. The only tracks I've seen for her have all been around that Aubrey's Gallagher shortcuts area, but you know, there's nothing. David, is there anything in that nest there? You see that little nest? A little cup nest next to the road, yeah.
I don't see anything.
Don't see anything, but it looks very neat for this time of the year. If it was from last year's chicks, because you know, normally those nests with the wind and the movement of animals and just general weather, they break down pretty quickly, those cup nests. That one looks awfully neat and tidy for this time of the year. Just heard a Red's helmet shrike calling as well. Sound like they're in the Mulawati down below us. Anyway, nothing on the nest itself. It's this time of the year you got to look out for little nests, particularly of things like chin-spot batis, white-crested helmet shrikes, little waxbill nests. So whenever you see little ones like that, always good just to check. Chagra nests can also be found. Aramark babblers too. They'll all be nesting shortly. But alas, that one, no nest, well, no eggs at least in it yet. Just pay attention to that nest. You never know, maybe it gets reused by somebody. I say it looks awfully neat for this time of the year. So Parker, offhand, I'm not 100% sure, but we can just count them out quickly. So stork species in the Sabi Sand saddlebill, black abdoms, marabou, white, yeah, five stork species. I think I'm not missing any. No, it's all of them. So yeah, 5 storks. I mean, abdom stork is not an easy one here. It's a rare one, but it has been seen in the Sabi Sands area. I don't think we've ever had one on camera at Djuma. Oh, and woolly-necked 6. Sorry, woolly-necked stork is also there. 6 storks species here in the Sabi Sands. Birding in the Sabi Sands is actually not bad, particularly because we have a mixture of, we've got the grassland birds, which you get like on the Gabbro intrusions through the sort of central parts of the Sabi Sands, so southern Londolozi, Singita, and then Savannah. It's all kind of Gabbro grassland there. So lots of like sitting cisticolas and Montagues and pallid harriers and weird and wonderful grass owls, marsh owls down that side. Then when you come up, you've got the Sand River and the Sabi River, so both of those provide pretty interesting birds. So there you'll get, I mean, there's even possibilities of things like Pell's fishing owl, emerald cuckoo, you know, so that's good birding. And then you've got all these undulating kind of drainage lines and savanna thickets that you get all the birds that we know so well here. And then you've got the little rocky outcrops. So, you know, on Singita there's Tavangumi, Kopi, then on Londos you've got Shimpalapala, then you've got Klebe rocks and Stwice, a couple others, ostrich koppies on Mala Mala. So those little rocky outcrops also provide opportunity for slightly different bird species. I know they've recorded black eagles and Mala Mala, which are very big fans of rocky areas. So I'm sure that's around Stwice, must be around that area. They're there. So yeah, we've got quite diverse habitat for birds here, and lots of interesting, weird and wonderful little migrants that come through. And I think because the Sabi Sands generally has got quite a number of guides in it that are interested in birding, a lot of birds that come through will be noticed maybe a little bit more than just the average general public in Kruger, as well as a lot of road networks. So the area is very well covered by people. Kruger's got big blocks with not a lot of roads, so birds can easily fly under the radar there a lot of the time. Alright, Vulture's Nest, then Nyala Road South, just checking for any signs of Kalamba. These are all places that we've seen her in the past, so hopefully we'll get a track somewhere around here.
If you are a WildEarth explorer, then we are excited to announce that there is another unique prize for you to win. Sign up to be an explorer before the 16th of October 2021, and you and a friend could be heading off to an eco-training ranger experience. This 2-night opportunity offers a living and learning adventure where you will combine seeing incredible nature with gaining knowledge on how animals live in the wild. You will approach dangerous game on foot, learn how to track, do some 4x4 driving, and have an exclusive opportunity to join the WildEarth team behind the scenes on the live show. After each action-packed day, you will relax around the campfire and listen to the nighttime choir of animal sounds before you drift off to sleep. WildEarth explorers, it's in your nature.
It's day 1 of the annual South African Guide of the Year competition, and our first foot into this competition this morning is all about tracks and signs.
We're going to call you in one at a time. Just look at it, the information will be there.
Our 5 guides have been tasked by the judges at figuring out who is what is who, and where they go in the bush.
Either Franklin or guinea fowl, but because of the volume of other deposits in the area, we went with guinea fowl.
Detailing the surrounding that you need to look out for tracks,
The details is very important.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. But it's the only one. Look at that. That is the call of desperation with a cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops! Oof!
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Well, good afternoon and a warm welcome to Cozy Bay in Cape Town. My name is Karen and with me today we have Eagle behind the camera. And today we're going to explore this beautiful area we have right here in front of us. And we hope that you will enjoy your time with us today. So I want you to draw your attention to the seals out on the rock there, Eagle. Firstly, we're looking at the Atlantic Ocean, and it's really cold here, 9 to 13 degrees Celsius, this water temperature. Not something you want to just leap into, this ocean. Although surfers absolutely love it, and so do the seals. So they really enjoy being in the sea. You'll find them mostly in the sea. And they're up on that rock, way ahead of us. And seals are amazing animals. They're quite adapted to land. They've got front and back flippers. The back flippers can rotate, so they can actually climb up rocks, and you see them up on the rocks over there. And the males are generally bigger, much bigger in fact than the females, and they are also known as bulls. And they can weigh up to 300 kilograms, whereas the females are a small 54 kilograms on average. And in terms of height, the bulls are 2.1 meters approximately, and then of course the females being 1.5 meters tall. So there they are, basking on the rocks, taking in the sun, enjoying the scenery, but mostly you'll see them along the coast of South Africa, from Namibia on the west side, all the way down to where we are, as well as at our east coast in Port Elizabeth, Algoa Bay. So you find a lot of them in Namibia as well, and they're really... Tristan, thank you for your question. Do seals interact with penguins? Absolutely they do. That's a great question because they actually hunt penguins, and they have over a period of time adapted their diets to eating penguins as well because of over-commercial fishing. And although they primarily eat anchovies, marspec, west coast lobster, as well as octopus, they will eat seagulls as well as penguins. Thank you for your question. So we can see the tide here we're in an intertidal zone over here. Nice cold water, as I mentioned, and lots of kelp in the water. Sea bamboo, we also call it. So today we're just experiencing this amazing venue, Cozy Bay in Cape Town, and watching the seals and just taking in this incredible scenery. Is it Roman? Hi Roman, thanks for your question. Do seals ever feed on sea plants? I think that's what you asked. They don't. They're actually carnivorous animals, so they're mammals and they prefer to eat, you know, what I've just mentioned, your fish, anchovies, as well as crayfish, octopus, and marspic, which is a kind of fish, and they'll eat penguins as well as seagulls. So we can see the waves coming in beautifully here. These granite boulders are absolutely beautiful and many, many millions of years old. And they're formed by volcanic eruption. And we've got them just absolutely everywhere. And those seals are up on these granite boulders. And they form territories, the bulls, generally in November. Or sorry, excuse me, in October, they will form territories, and then they, later on in November, will have harems of up to 50 cows.
Sorry, Mel. Sorry, Mel, we're just moving quickly. We just have something that's disturbing us. Let's pull your cable. Let's pull your cable.
Sorry about that, everyone. You're now with us, checking our western boundary for lions. There was reports that they crossed over, but it sort of helps if you know exactly where they crossed over, at what point. It's good to be given an area, but you also want to know exactly where they crossed so you can gauge exactly which block they're in. So that's why I've got my head down to the side here. But this is a very busy road. It's the highway, really. And therefore, lots and lots and lots of vehicle traffic. So what you're best doing is don't look in front for the tracks, because that's where the vehicles go. Look at the side. Look at the soft sand on either side, and that's when you'll pick up on the tracks. And if it's a whole pride of lions, then we should be able to pick up on where they have gone. You always have to keep your head up as well. People have driven past the animal because they're so busy with their head down for tracks. Okay, I'm gonna keep looking and hopefully we get to catch up with the Termite pride. I'm scratching our western boundary. There was given up on my elephant mission, I'm afraid. There was reports of... It's really hard to drive and look for your binos, but you get there. There was reports of the Termites crossing in. So I'm just trying to gauge exactly where they've crossed. And once we can figure that out, we'll know exactly which roads to check. But it's hot today. And although it's not summer hot, it's still hot with regards to what it has been. And therefore, I imagine, I'm going to guess that the lines are flat. Flat caps. But it would be so lovely to catch up with the Talamati Pride. Christian, yes, a leopard would use the same den more than once if it has been successful. They will have a sort of network of areas, and especially ones that they were raised in by their mother when they were cubs, that they will actually use. And of course the den sites that have remained completely safe, completely hidden, no disturbance, no threats, no sort of hyenas raiding, they'll continue to use. Maybe not every year, maybe every second year. Whenever they have a cub, they definitely will reuse the same sites. Tandy did. We all know that. Tandy used many of the den sites again and again with her litter. It doesn't mean they'll use the exact same one at the same stage, but they know there are areas that they like to sort of hide in, especially when they've got cubs. They're very, very secretive, naturally, as they should be when they have cubs. So den sites are very sensitive here, and you have to be careful how you handle them and which ones you approach. But if Miss Kalamba is denning, I do wonder where. We know the ones that Tandy used when she was a cub. But it will be interesting to see what one Kalamba chooses, if she is indeed pregnant. I know there's a lot of speculation that she is. Okay, Talamatis. I want to see you guys. It's very open, that's a good thing. That's going to work in our favour. And of course, if they're flat, they are the same colour as the grass. Tawny cats, tawny landscape. Lines are actually easier to spot in summer, believe it or not, because their tawny colour contrasts with that bright emerald green. Emerald. There's another colour that I missed off the list earlier. Yes, that emerald green contrast. In winter, they blend in completely. But I'll try my best. I've only got a vague report. Leonardo, you're asking, has there been any update on Miss Wig since she left the nest? Oh dear. Oh dear, my radio's dying. Do you mean yesterday? Yesterday afternoon when we saw the eggs? I don't actually know what you're referring to, Leonardo. But we did see her yesterday, and no update, I'm afraid, since yesterday. I will plan on visiting her just a little bit later. It's normally good to go see the owls around sunset time or just before sunset time. But yes, no update since then, I'm afraid. There was 2 eggs. Definitely 2 eggs from what we could see, and I'm sure she'll still be there. One of us, I think Wendy is the only vehicle that actually gets signal there, will check on her every single day. My radio is dying, which is wonderful news. I'll do a loop around this area. I'm really not seeing any lion tracks. I don't quite know when or where they crossed over. And once we've done that, we shall bumble slowly and eventually end up at the Wigs for you, Leonardo. We'll give you an update. I'm going to lose comms quite soon with this radio dying.
Only two fireplates, slowly moving to the east.
Lions, did you come? Oh, sorry, that was a bit abrupt, Impo. I do apologise. They haven't come this way, that's for sure. crossing at one-eyed pan. Ah, Hornbill. Well spotted. Mr. Hornbill. Where's the lions? I'm really bad for holding this brake. I need to stop that. Okay, Info, we're going to swing a left. See if we can find out where these tawny cats have gone. Hello, wind. The western sector of the reserve is my bees' favourite part of the reserve. Okay, we're going to figure out what to do with my dying radio, but let's take a look at the Wild Earth expeditions.
Towards Buffelshoek Dam, no tracks that we could pick up on anywhere. Vulture's Nest, Nyala South, there was very little sign of anything moving around there, other than a hippo, randomly enough, that seemed to be walking along that road last night, or actually during the rain in the early hours of this morning. But we're with a hippo now, probably this very hippo, actually. Who must have walked up the Nyala Road drainage line and then into Buffelshoek Dam. I was surprised that it comes from that direction. I would have thought that this hippo would be making use of the fire breaks around here quite a lot. There's a little bit of green flush that's coming out on those fire breaks. So I would expect those areas to be hard hit, particularly by hippo. But maybe there's some other little grassy patch that he likes from here to the south, and they also can't go the same direction every night, otherwise they'll just overutilize their area. So they do also head into different areas. This hippo can often be quite shy. It kind of keeps its head underneath the surface of the water a lot of the time. You can see a little oxpecker that's landed there. They often use the hippos as a raft to have a little drink of water, nice and safe on top of a hippo. You don't have to worry too much about crocodiles and even birds of prey. You can have a good drink, and you might even find a meal as well as a bit of water. So often find when the hippos come up, the oxpeckers find them pretty quickly in order to take advantage of the offers that hippos have. But I must admit, Buffelshoek Dam has been eerily quiet the last few weeks, and considering the temperatures and the amount of water here, we should have seen a lot more in the way of elephant and buffalo making their way to this dam. It's a big dam at the end of the day. There's lots of water here, and the water looks pretty clean and pretty fresh. There's not a huge algae build-up anywhere, so it surprises me that we haven't seen more numbers of animals here. I don't know what the reason would be for that, but yeah, it would be nice if it was more utilized. Even from a cat point of view, I can't remember the last time I saw any cats here. Lion, leopard, been a long time. Billy, who's 6 years old, yes, the birds do bother the hippos. Billy, imagine a bird going into your ear, up your nose, and then running around on you and tickling your back. It starts to get a little irritating after a while for the hippos. They don't like it, especially when they go in their ears and on their eyeballs. And then you'll find that they'll go underneath and they'll let the bird, and the birds will then fly away. So they can get irritating, but they also provide a good function. They help to keep the hippo nice and clean and get rid of little parasites that the hippo has. And remember that hippos, because they walk around at night, often they have a lot of parasites on them that, you know, the birds can't get to because the hawkspeckers are not flying at night. So half of their way of cleaning them is when a hippo lies on the bank or something like that, then the hawkspeckers come and try and maximize their chance to get that. Also with hippos, they fight a lot, and so they often have lots of little cuts on them. Now remember with oxpeckers is that they're not actually after the parasite as much as they're after the blood. So they are what's known as a sanguinivore, and they want the blood from that parasite because ticks are blood eaters as well. So the bird is getting those and utilizing the blood. There we go. See how I just dropped down and the birds fly away. So they will, on hippos, find a lot of food in the form of blood because they can go to those little cuts and scrapes and they peck at them and it starts to bleed and then they can drink that blood. So it's a nice animal to have for an oxpecker, and they make use of it a lot. Now, because the hippos don't get a huge amount of oxpeckers, like I say, because they move at night, a lot of their parasite load is also dealt with by terrapins. So you'll often find terrapins very close to hippos, and they will be under the water and pulling off those little ticks and things that are on hippos too. So hippos have gotten over the problem. By being semi-aquatic, they can still find an animal that can perform the same service as an oxpecker, just in the water itself. So clever that there's always something that works out here, and it's all connected somehow in order for these animals to survive and thrive. Chris, I've never had a leech in this dam, but then again, I've never really been in this dam. This has been dry for a large portion of my time at WildEarth, but I suppose it's possible. I just haven't seen one here. So yeah, that's it. Like I say, it's possible, but I've not seen one personally. So it would be a lie if I said yes or no, but it is possible. We don't actually get a huge amount of leeches in the Sabi sands, even in the rivers. Not a lot there. The most leeches I've ever come across are in more marshy areas. So like Congo rainforest, lots of leeches in that area. I picked up quite a few there. But it wouldn't surprise me if there are leeches in some of these little water points. It's very, very, very quiet here. Considering it's warm, I was hoping maybe a little herd of elephants would be around. I saw where elephants have been at some point. It looked like maybe last night or early this morning that have absolutely mangled a Tamboti thicket to the south of the dam. It's a place where Hosana used to hang around a lot. But they have pushed over, I don't know how many trees there, broken things. It looks like a bomb went off inside there. So I don't know if it was the loose, soft soil of the morning that they decided they could just break everything down. No idea why all of a sudden they've decided that that's what they wanted to do, but they certainly did a good job of destroying the place. Alrighty, I think we're going to continue. Still continue on our eastward mission, see if there's anything else lurking about.
think sometimes you need just to listen. So it's a kind of taking out all that other spirit and bring back wilderness and healthy. Bushwalk and trek and sign. I'm sure I'm good at that. I spend most of my time on the ground since I was a young boy, so I think I'm good with that. Actually, I'm not much nervous of any category. Just take it as it is. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure on what the judges are looking at. So chances are 50-50 on my side. I'm not... Obviously, when you go for a competition, you say you win.
Okay, there's another big male coming in from our left here. Another big male, look at this. This is the one. Now you're going to see sparks fly, guys. Guys, it doesn't get better than this, eh? Yes, unbelievable. Africa, I love you, eh?
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Guides on an eco-training course. So some of these topics are ranging from insects, as well as a number of field signs, as well as behavior. And what we are looking at the moment is actually a termite mound that has now fallen in disuse. And quite often what we do find is when the second or third queen has eventually succumbed, they no longer can produce this next queen, and then the whole colony starts collapsing. So quite often these termite mounds that has now fallen to collapse becomes home for a wide range of different animals, and these include a number of different snake species, as well as monitors and small mammals such as dwarf mongoose. And right over here we can actually see on the eastern side of the termite mound a large amount of scat that has been left by these dwarf mongoose. There's a few interesting things. The broader side of this termite mound is on the eastern side and the western side, while the south and northern tip is quite narrow. So we can also use it for a direction finding ability. Quite often the dung also can be used as determining direction. So what I find interesting is that these small little dwarf mongoose will go through a number of different sleeping places within a 27-day period, and they will eventually return to one of these before the scent of the dung as well as the anal gland secretions which they deposit will eventually disappear. I also find it particularly interesting that they will actually drag their anal glands on top of one another as well, so that they can share communal odor. So for the first-time viewers, dwarf mongoose is actually one of the smallest carnivore species in Africa, and they weigh approximately some 200 grams. We also find that they've got an interesting social structure which is matriarchal based, where the female is actually larger than the males, and the dominant female in that group is up to 30% larger than the other individuals in that group. We also see that she's the only one that will actually reproduce, while other females will be bullied and manipulated into preventing from going into estrus by keeping their morale quite low. One of the things that fascinates me is that when that female will eventually die, she will be replaced by another female, and how the next female in position will come up. That's where the male will actually select that female. And what happens? The female that can deposit the most saliva on his coat is the female that will be selected as his new queen. A few other things that I do find particularly interesting about termite mounds, which is also active, is that we often find that rock monitors as well as water monitors will dig into the side of these termite mounds, and they will actually use a consistent heat that's been generated by these termite mounds to incubate their eggs, which they have left behind there and covered up. It also provides the young monitor lizards with their first meal before they move on. So there's a number of questions and answers that people had earlier on the show. If there's any of those questions that you would like to bring out and would like us to answer, you're more than welcome to bring them on. Good afternoon, Walt, and welcome to the show. Yes, the termites will definitely bite the animals if they do disturb the termite mound and break it open. And we find that it's specifically the soldiers in some species that has got fairly large pinchers that they will use as defensive weapons. And some species of termite, like snouted termite, they will actually spray a chemical onto the animal. And for example, an artifact that will be digging into the side of a termite mound and has been consistently bitten and sprayed with formic acid and the sticky glue will eventually move off and go somewhere else to go and feed. It's also interesting that they never overutilize the whole colony of termites, unlike ants, which will destroy a whole colony of termites if they have opportunity to do so. Well, we're going to move on, and in the meanwhile, let's go and see what Lauren is up to.
We haven't found a lions, but we have found a kudu. A young kudu, young female. And when I say young, you judge that by size. I'm a little bit baffled as to exactly where these lines have supposedly crossed in, but I'll keep checking. It's still hot, but in just a short time it naturally will get cooler and cooler. I got asked this morning, what's my favourite antelope? And it's such a tough question. And they're all my favourite at different times. Is that allowed? But female kudus just have to be absolutely stunning. Yes, you're beautiful. I'm actually wearing the new kudu horn down to the wire. I'm going to show you. Here we go, Impo. You see my beautiful necklace that is dangling on my neck. It's in the shape of a kudu horn. I'm sure you've all heard of down to the wire. This one here. They make the bracelets. They've also started making necklaces. So this kudu horn that you can see on my neck is actually a snare, or an old snare, or it was a snare, or it's a upcycled snare. I love the word upcycle. And it's from down to the wire. Isn't it beautiful? And it's in the shape of a kudu horn. It got me stopped at a few airports, but that's okay because it's for a good cause. And if any of you don't know Down to the Wire, check them out. They're an incredible organisation that take in these snares and do exactly that. It's not recycling, because you're not recycling it for the same purpose. You're upcycling it. And upcycling means you change its purpose, you change its function. So for example, if you had a plant pot and you clean it and you want to keep using it, but not as a plant pot anymore, you want to use it to keep your makeup brushes in, then you've upcycled. And that's exactly what they do with snares. They make them into jewellery. And all the money goes to such a good cause.
Good afternoon, stations. I'm getting mobile. Any visuals here?
My goodness. You're asking, do all kudus have the same amount of stripes? I didn't get the name because the Game Drive radio blasted in my ear. But I believe they do. It's a unique pattern, as in they're not all going to be identical in terms of the shape and direction of the stripes, but I do believe they have the same number of stripes. The kudu stripes are not quite as uniform and as linear as the Nyalas, for example. They just help break up that body outline. To us, they don't. To the human eye, they really don't. But to the eye of a predator, and just breaks it up a little bit. And you also get that underwater, you also get that in different environments. It's a really common sort of theme across the animal kingdom. Disruptive markings, disrupt that body outline for defense against predators, really. This is one relaxed kudu. Always have to be hyper aware of what's going on around, hyper sensitive. Use all your senses to make sure nothing's sneaking up on you. Wesley, I don't believe there are any dominant females within the kudu herd. Sort of prey species, if you like, those that do live the herd life within antelopes don't tend to have a dominant female. It doesn't really work like that. Of course, all the females will stick together and you do find your bachelor herds. And normally the older sort of take lead in comparison to the younger. The younger ones will follow the older ones, but there is no single one leader. Their social structure doesn't really work like that. And the sort of ecology of herd life is really interesting, and how, although a mother will protect her offspring, absolutely, it's a herd for a reason, and it's a herd to be selfish. Just the same as impala, when there are more of you, more protection, more eyes, more ears, more nostrils, and of course, less chance of it being you taken by the predators. Dilution, the dilution effect. It's not really selfless, it's actually very selfish. Surrounding yourself with others to make sure it's not you. And of course, those species that are small, like your steenbok and your duiker, doesn't benefit them to be in a herd. Okay. We're going to sit here for a little while and admire our kudu. We're just taking this moment to appreciate gorgeous female kudu here. Is thoroughly enjoying her meal and having a good old clean by the oxpeckers at the same time. I'm going to use this time to listen to anything that's going on. So we're just going to sit here and listen to the sounds of the bush. gosh, you're just beautiful. So tranquil. Just sitting here listening to the sounds.
Well, we are just crossing onto Chitwa now. No tracks on Cheetah Cutline of anything, so just going to check around. Chitwa will probably do the sort of Cutline dam area and then up to the bottom of Chitwa and then come back around, check Shirombi, just mill about and see. Hopefully we get an alarm call or something. Tanya apparently had a kill yesterday on Chitwa airstrip. Stolen by hyenas. Not so. She maybe is still lurking. Didn't go too far, but busy. Left. Just looks so leopardy. Imagine that, David. Nice afternoon lights. Nice soft background, eye level. So all the magic in one place. So we'll go check the water quickly. Let's do that. I'm afraid there's a bit of dodgy signal on the cut line, so let's not take that just yet.
Welcome back on Bushwalk. We decided after the long walk to make our way back to one of the dams to come and see if there's any animals that has popped in. So far, nothing yet, but we do have a grey heron that came to visit. On the last day with the rains, it seems as if there's more and more of them popping in. I also noticed quite a few this morning that came to make a visit at Ndlovu Dam. So they're quite a common heron species in this area, and quite often we see them waiting for little fish to come in striking distance. And then they simply use that long spear-like beak to stab them and grab them, and then they will eat them. One of the things that we also find quite often about little dams like this is another species of heron, which is known as a black-headed heron. However, the black-headed heron is not a water-associated heron, but it does come and breed in association with water bodies, and also they will breed in between grey herons. So some of the features that you can look at is the eye color, which you can use to separate them. You can also see with black-headed heron, it's got an all-black head and not a white middle path, as in the case of a grey heron. And in flight, when these birds are flying, you'll notice that their necks is, you'll notice with the underwings that the grey heron has got an all-grey underwing compared to where there's a contrasting black and white leading and trailing edges with that of the black-headed heron. And generally we find also that black-headed heron differs in its behavior, and it will tend to go and feed in grassland areas. So there's a number of different pointers just giving you how to identify birds. And how we start is we simply look at size and shape. So the size for this bird is a very large bird. And then from there on, we start looking at the shape. And the shape is typical of that of a heron. Also, if we do look at herons, they tend to fly with their necks tucked in, compared to storks that fly with their heads out. So there's another behavioral identification feature which we just provided. Then we can start looking at the bill as well as the feet as features. So quite often the shape of the bill, the coloration of the bill, or contrasting colors will tell you a lot about that bird. And if we do look at a bill, it's a specific tool to perform a specific job, and that specific job is to deal with a specific prey or food item, indicative of the habitat which it occurs in. And we can use the coloration, the length, as well as the thickness, and sometimes the amount of feathering that we find on the legs of a specific bird to separate it from similar looking bird species. Different plumage colors. What is the main color that we see? What is the two main contrasting colors that we see? And then we ask ourselves, is there any special markings that we can see on the bird that can help us? We also just need to remember that birds like to dress up, and especially male birds. They're pretty much like James Bond. Some have a dull suit on to do duties, and when they have some dress, they want to impress, and the reason why they want to impress is to catch. And that behavior we see with approximately more than 99% of all bird species. A small minority of females are the ones that needs to impress. And then lastly, we can look at a number of other features such as the behavior as well as habitat that we can use to identify it. We're into the Pridelands Eco Training promo, which is a discount for joining on a guiding course with us at Eco Training. One of the subjects that we will teach you is a number of different things about birds, bird identification and bird behavior.
Operating for 27 years, Eco Training is the pioneer and leader in safari guide and wildlife training in Africa. WildEarth has been working closely with Eco Training to promote the safari guide industry and create awareness for its importance. This is why, for 1 month only, we are offering all WildEarth viewers an opportunity to receive a discount on an Eco Training safari guide course. Contact Eco Training today to find out more, and remember to quote Eco Wild Live to receive your discount.
Well, we've arrived at the dam, just having a little squiz around the dam. So far, the usual suspects: hippos, crocodile, a couple birds, and a floating waterbuck, which is never all great. I wonder if it wasn't chased in by the dogs at some point. It's often what happens, and now the crocs are just waiting for it to rot out a little bit before they actually eat it. You can see a terrapin has decided that a dead floating waterbuck makes for the perfect sun tanning station. And so it's climbed onto the carcass and is now just enjoying a spot of sun. It's a rather large terrapin, that's actually. It's one of the bigger ones I've seen. No wonder it's got the prime position. Pretty safe spot to be lurking. But I'm pretty sure that what's happened is the dogs have chased it. I mean, the dogs have been here a lot of late, kind of in and out. And what they do is they often chase things and things run into water. Now in this dam, unfortunately, when things run into water, there's a hippo that is yawning. Some nice light on it. Big yawn. Is that the crocs then grab mostly what comes in here. So I wouldn't be surprised that that poor waterbuck ran in and then the crocs grabbed it and just pulled it under, and it's drowned, and now they're just waiting for it to rot a little bit and then they'll start to consume it. Between the two crocs, it shouldn't last all that long. I'm just trying to think when the dogs were last here. It was about 2 days ago that the dogs were last here, so it normally takes a few days and then that bloat and all that kind of thing, and then it starts to rot nicely, or nice enough for them to eat it. But normally when they're in the water like this, the crocs actually will just sit right next to it the whole time. They don't actually move away. They don't like to give their carcass up, but I suppose there's not a lot of competition here, so it's not like there's 75 crocodiles and everybody's got to fight over a small piece of meat. There's only a few crocs, so not too bad. And those little egrets across the way. Actually, I don't want to film the lodge just yet. It seems like guests are still in camp. You can see some of the guides on the deck, so we won't film towards the rooms at this stage. It's just like scanning the edges of Chitwa Dam at this time of the year. With this bit of rain and wind that we've had over the course of the last few days, you can get some weird and wonderful little things that rock up here. I mean, we've had those pratincoles, which we didn't see. Did we see them last year? I can't even remember if we did. Or last summer, should I say. Weird and wonderful little sandpipers. We had the night herons here the other day, which was quite cool. I always like just scanning the banks in case an epic bird is around. Mike, 100% hyenas would eat that carcass. They just can't get to it. They will be petrified of the crocs in here, so they're not going to go wading in there for it. They're too clever for that. If it comes to this edge, if it somehow gets blown towards the edge of the dam, then yes, they will eat it, as would a leopard, lion, or even wild dog. This fallacy of wild dogs not scavenging is absolute rubbish. Wild dogs do scavenge, but it has to be fairly fresh. It can't be completely rotten. They're not huge fans of rotten, but they do scavenge. So yeah, if it gets to the edge of the dam, then all bets will be off and any predator will grab it and eat it. But the crocs are pretty good. They know where they need to anchor it and what they need to do in order to keep it from getting towards the bank. You can see it's not even moving, even though there's quite a strong breeze blowing. It's not moving, it's just staying there. So you don't need to worry too much about it. What will also consume this carcass is catfish and terrapins. The terrapins will be taking little chunks of meat off of it as well, and catfish will be also eating from the bottom. And I wouldn't be surprised if you came here in the evening, when it was dark, you'd see that carcass bobbing up and down with the catfish going inside the stomach. If they've opened that stomach cavity, then they'll be writhing around in there and eating all little bits of meat that are around that area. I actually had a crazy sighting once of the Charleston Pride. I was talking about them, I don't think it was yesterday, swimming. They used to sit in the Sand River, so they used to sleep in the Sand River, but they also used to hunt a lot at the Sand River, and they used to kill kudu quite regularly on the banks. And the one day they actually killed a kudu in the water, and it was a particularly hot day, and so they just left the carcass in the water, and they decided that they would just sit in the water and feed off it. At that point the river was still quite low. It was only about, say, halfway up their leg, so not deep at all. So when they sat, their legs were underwater, but the chest was exposed, and so there's no crocs or anything like that. And then we went in quite late in the evening, so it was about just after sunset, and it was pandemonium. It was these three lions trying to fend off a marauding school of catfish, and the catfish were trying to get to the carcass, and the lions were chasing the catfish. It was such an epic sighting. Just such a pity that it was in the dark. It was difficult to see really nicely, and also from a photographic point of view it was pretty tricky. It would have been nice during the day because you would have the splashing of water of the lions running through, and because where you had to park was on the bank, and you had to kind of look down into the water, and you could clearly see the catfish swimming around. It was very, very, very cool sighting. So yeah, I think later you'll probably see a lot of that, a lot of catfish and the likes moving about. Alright, so I think I'm going to carry on and just do a loop around Chitto. We'll probably end up back at the dam just now, as it gets a little bit cooler, in the hope that maybe some ellies come down to drink. But let's go just quickly do a little scratch and see if there's any sign of anything up on the sort of Mulawanini area.
And I turned to Shaw and I saw that she had this panicked look on her face. Either she was afraid that something had happened, or she was afraid that she was going to miss out on something. But instead of her missing out on those lions, we drove up next to them and I switched off the car so that she could hear what was going on. Now, these lions had killed a kudu, and she could hear these two cubs, both 8 months old at the time, busy pushing and shoving each other out the way to get to the best parts of the meat. And the mom was lying just to the side in the shade. Now, I'd known that before losing her sight, Sean probably knew what a lion looked like. But I really wanted her to know what this lion looked like. So for the first time in my guiding career, I started to describe to someone what a lion looked like. And I found that, I started to notice things in that lion that I'd never seen before.
I've seen something I've never seen here before. Look at these cubs. One is crossing the river, it's being washed away unfortunately, but I'm sure the mother is going to save her. Look at that! How beautiful, look at that! One crossing, two to go. How cool is this?
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
I got into wildlife filmmaking because of a passion for nature and a notion that I could make a difference. Helping others fall in love with nature brings meaning to what I do. It's also a lot of fun. A couple of times per week we receive some very heartfelt messages from viewers telling us about how WildEarth has made a difference in their life, whether it's helped them through a difficult period or simply helped them to reconnect with nature. I think that's why we do what we do.
We're still at the dam, just with the hippos at the moment. We're trying to get an update on what's going on around Chitwa. So far, nothing really to report. Somebody's saying that there's the two evokers, so Blondie and Mohawk, on the cut line of Chitwa and Hoffman's, which is impossible because they don't share a cut line. So, I don't know. I'll go and check the boundary and just see if they're around. I haven't seen those two for a while. The last time we had them, I think Ali had them, and the last time before that, as far as I know, is probably well over a year. I don't think there's been any other sightings of them for a while. So, we'll try not to go and disrupt that area. But you can see a little baby hippo just lying on the back of its mom, just taking it very easy this afternoon. Ultimately, it's the best place to be. It's kind of slumped over your mom. You're safe there, and also you don't really have to do any work. You don't have to worry about regulating your body position. You can just enjoy mom's floating raft. Poor mom has got to stick her head up with her nose kind of out just so she can breathe while the little one has a whale of a time on the back. I wonder how uncomfortable it must be to have a baby hippo on your back. So Ollie is 7 years old. Why do hippos yawn? Same reason you yawn, Ollie. Sometimes they're tired. But also what they yawn for is to show their teeth. And why they're showing their teeth is because they want to make themselves look big and scary to other hippos. So male hippos will open their mouth and show these big canines, or tushes actually is what they are. And they'll throw water and they'll make themselves all look big and scary. And that means that the other hippos will be like, okay, I don't want to go to that water hole because I'm scared of that big hippo, and will then go to somewhere else, and he doesn't then have to fight with them. But if that other hippo doesn't listen, well, then he's got to fight. So the yawns often are showing just how big and strong and how powerful the male is. In females, it's just like us, just yawning because, well, sometimes we yawn. I do like when a hippo yawns, though. There's nothing quite like a big bull hippo yawning. And you get those big teeth and open mouth that extends as far as it does. It's a pretty cool thing to witness. David, where are we going to find a leopard today?
Somewhere on Chitwa.
Somewhere in Chitwa, you reckon? I think we should go and check those couple of those roads east of the airstrip. I have a funny feeling about Kuchava today. I want to check there, or Shasha or Tsemba, one of those three. Just I don't know why they've all been kind of on the back of my mind. I think Marips is somewhere below First Rock at the moment. Where we had him last when he was messing around with the zebras was on Torchwood, and then it seems like he kind of went from there. The guys said that afternoon the tracks were going towards First Rock for him. I suspect he's still around there with all the rain and stuff. There'll be a few little puddles that he can drink from. He doesn't have to worry about coming to these big main dams at this stage. Right, we're going to leave the dam for now. David's just showing you behind the dam wall. Always a good place to go slowly and check carefully. Often a leopard lurking in these areas. It's amazing how many sightings we've had of leopard on this backside of the dam wall for many years now. It's not just been this year. It was the Hosana area, Tumba,
No, she has to crash cut to us.
I didn't get that, dude. Does it come out?
You're live.
We're live. Okay. Everyone, you're back with us. My earpiece popped out of the machine there. But we're back in the game, and it looks like the impala have come down to drink at Treehouse Dam. I enjoy seeing the antelope species come down to drink because they get so nervous. It's such a big thing to come down to a water body that when they do relax like that, the light's starting to turn golden. I love it. Jonah, some of the pans are definitely man-made, and this is normally to combat some of the serious droughts they've had here. In the sort of, well, the Sabi sands, even the Greater Kruger, and Gallagher Pan is man-made, and the little pan next to Gowrie Dam is man-made. So some of the dams here have been altered by humans. Dam walls have been built, for example, but the pans are definitely man-made, and they're also pumped. And it is for two reasons, I guess. In terms of drought, severe conditions, animals need water. You have animals on your reserve and they need water. And two, it's also used as a conservation management tool. So depending on the sort of season that you're having and what kind of year you've had, you can actually close off water points or empty them and drain them. And this actually can redirect animals such as elephants to different water points. So if elephants, say there's a high number of them in the area, this is a way of controlling them that doesn't involve culling and doesn't involve hormones and anything that affects the immune system. It just redirects them. So you can sort of build up the structure of the area again. If maybe the soil's been damaged or the topography or the vegetation, you can give it a little bit of a break. And that's the two reasons you have man-made water points, but not this one. Mackenzie, you're saying what a stunning view. Indeed. That's why we stopped here. I'm a little bit surprised at the lack of activity on the reserve. I can't complain. I had such a fabulous stint last time. But it does seem to be rather quiet around here, and that's the bush for you. It peaks and troughs. Got the highs and the lows of the bush, but it is remarkably quiet right now. But we are going to slowly head to see Missy's Wig now. It's getting to that time. I think it'll be lovely to just pop into the Mulwati and see if we can spend time with our favourite owl. Haley, I visited the hyena den when it was active. We don't have an active hyena den anymore. So it's been quite some time. I couldn't even possibly give you a date, actually. That's how long it's been. But we don't have an active hyena den. Times have changed. So it's been a long, long time since I've spent time at any sort of hyena home, which is rather unfortunate. But there's no active den anymore. Sam, you're asking, would a different animal use the hyena den? It is just a termite mound, and mostly unused. It's not, although last year it actually was active. I just don't imagine the whole mound is active. So it's just an area that the hyenas doesn't actually belong to them, if that makes sense. They wouldn't have done the burrowing. It would have most likely have been done by the likes of an aardvark. We do get them here. And they would have been the one that sort of made that big entrance that I like to call it. Then the hyenas come in. But many animals could have used it before the hyenas and many animals after it, from insects, lizards, frogs. I don't think birds. But warthogs will be in the burrow. Mongoose will use the burrow, and of course the Djuma clan came along and decided we're going to use this, but it's a temporary thing, so it's not just the hyena den. It will absolutely be in use by something else. Even porcupines can bury on in this environment. 100% something will be using it. Just letting you enjoy the sounds of the birds. I'm finding it very relaxing. The chorus all around us, a language that we enjoy but we don't actually understand. A language we don't speak, but it sounds beautiful to our ears. We didn't get a sunset yesterday, so this is going to be my first one since returning. I think the two best countries in the world for sunsets are the Maldives and the continent of Africa. Watching the sunset into the ocean. It drops off into the horizon. There's nothing else in sight. It's quite spectacular. And sunset in South Africa, or even Kenya, or even Ethiopia, Namibia, all the places that I have been on the continent of Africa. Brian, that's a tricky one. There's a lot of bird species that are vocal out here. Starlings across the board are very, very vocal. But then you get the migrants that come in, like the woodland kingfisher, for example, and it is here to be vocal. It's here to feed and is here to breed. It's got two things on its mind, food and, well, mating, shall we say. So it needs to eat all the delicious insects to get big and strong and, of course, impress the opposite sex. And they call and they call and they call.
Mike Willis.
As you know, chip, churr. And they are vocal for that reason. They're trying to breed. They're not monogamous and they need to make most of the summer. And then, of course, they leave again. So the migrants can be very, very vocal. And normally you find that those bird species that are monogamous and they don't migrate, you often find that they are quite quiet. They will only really vocalize for territory. They don't need to impress any more ladies. They've got their chickadee by their side. That's a really difficult question. Really, bird song is mostly used to claim your territory here. They are territorial birds. It sounds beautiful to us, but maybe if you're a bird, it's, hey, stay away from my patch. I'm coming for you. Maybe that's what they're saying to one another. You don't know. and to attract the opposite sex. Now that sun is quite high in the sky, but it's sinking rapidly. So I think we are going to quickly just bumble to the wicks before it drops too low. And last night we were starting to work with lack of light. Dobby and I got to Missy's rig a little bit too late. I was stuck on the dam cam for some of it. So therefore we're going to make our way now before that sun drops too high. Hopefully she's sitting there. But it was so lovely we got to see the eggs yesterday. And I'm determined to start following this chick. Some of you have sent in name suggestions and I love them all. I've received them all and I love them all. So I have a funny feeling once the chick arrives, we're going to have to do a poll. The names are just all too good. Is one of my favorite places to drive on the reserve. We don't get signal anymore there, which is absolutely heartbreaking. But we'll make it work. We'll make a plan. We always do. So I'm on my way now to the Wicks house.
Not fresh. Looks like rain on top. So I don't know if maybe this is from Shasha yesterday morning. He was seen crossing into Torchwood in the Mulawanini yesterday in the heavy rain. So I think this might be him coming this side. This is also where Thandi had a kill yesterday. It's just... I'm just checking nicely in case somehow she stole a piece back. You never really know what can happen, especially with Thandi. She's so good at being able to pilfer and get things back. It's very, very possible that she's still around. So looks like here. This must have been the Ngala Pride the other day. So rain on top and vehicles on top. What we want is stuff on top of the rain and on top of the vehicle tracks. That's what we're looking for. A million times easier. I just want to check quickly. Sounds like we're having an issue with the Chitwa mast, even though I can see it from where I am. So we'll just look at the sunset for a little while. Enjoy the sounds. Pretty sun at the moment. We'll just keep scratching in this little area here and just see. I'm hoping some fresh tracks will come up, or the animal itself would be really nice. The one good thing about watching the sunset is if there's an alarm call, we'll pick it up quite clearly from where we are.
Well, hello there. We have got a giraffe. Aren't you just incredibly handsome? This is a young boy, a dark one, and they do say that the color of the patches relates to social status. And I get asked a lot, how do you tell the difference between male and female? And people go into great depth about the ossicons, but come on, everyone. I mean, it is unmistakable. Yes, I know. You're not a lady, we know that. I mean, if you're not able to sex a giraffe, I will be slightly concerned. But yes, the ossicons are also a giveaway. But this is not a full-sized adult. They get much bigger than this. Normally, oh, I love it when they stick their tongues out like that. And of course, it's right behind the tree. And Paul will be having a field day. I don't really want to turn the engine on though. And with the knob thorns flowering at the start of spring, the giraffes will be having the best time in terms of food. Image, yes and no. They do have a broad diet. It's important to have a broad diet out here in the wilderness. If you're too specialized, that's where problems come in. For example, I always use this example just because I've seen it firsthand, but the Ethiopian wolf over time just became far too specialized in its diet, only really eating the giant mole rat and a handful of other rodents, that they've been just a victim of their own success now. Their diet is too specialized and therefore they're in trouble. They're in big trouble for a number of reasons, but really the more pickier an animal is, the bigger the struggles. And for a giraffe, they will really feed on any delicious, nutritious foliage, and they can actually consume around 34 kilograms of food per day. That's a lot. But they love the knobthorn flowers, my goodness. They're actually the only known mammalian pollinator. I just love watching the meat. It's so relaxing. Okay, we are just going to say goodbye to this handsome chappie, as I still haven't made it yet to the Wicks house.
Back on bushwalk, we decided to go down to one of the dams to go and enjoy the last little bit of sunset in the hope that there was going to some animals will come down and come and drink. But we've been rewarded with one of the most dramatic sunsets that I've seen in a very long time. I'm going to be absolutely dead quiet and just give you the opportunity to enjoy the sounds of nature as well as that sunset. Well, that was definitely my favorite sunset of the last week and a half since I've been back on WildEarth, and I'm glad that you also enjoyed it. We're going to sit here a little bit longer, and let's go and see what the others are up to.
Joys of our current signal.
Here at the Advanced Rifle Handling Challenge, which is actually lots of challenges in one to gauge the contestants' skills at different distances and different speeds. This is probably the challenge that the contestants are the most nervous about. So let's get them locked and loaded. Competitors are now doing the Haley's Halt, where they have to run back and forth to a target, turn, take aim, and shoot. And this simulates a chase in a real environment and gets the heart pumping and the blood pressure up. James gave us a demonstration, and the skill involved in this exercise is remarkable.
You are cheeky. That was a brave decision. Amber Eyes is... Oh. That is so magic. That was absolutely wonderful. Amber Eyes just gave that cub an enormous hug.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Delivering 6 hours of HD wildlife content live every day is no small feat. It's a massive team effort, and we all rely on one another. Cam Ops have a bit of work to do in the morning, up nice and early, get all the checks out of the way, and make sure we're ready to go live. Helping others fall in love with nature brings meaning to what I do. It's also a lot of fun.
Well, we're just sitting admiring some dry bush and a very obscured sunset. Unfortunately, we can't move, so this is where we're at, and we will try and kind of see if we can find anything in this little area. It's not really much to go on. This is quite a desolate part of Chitwas at times. It can be quite rewarding if you're willing to work in this area sort of for a long period of time. This area at Kuchava and Tsemba are in here a lot more than anyone even realizes, and Tandi actually. But because of its density, particularly in the summer months, no one really spends a lot of time here. But now in winter, since the buffalo have come through, you can actually see how short the grass is here. This is that big buff herd spent a number of days here at one point, and they've kind of flattened everything else out and chewed out the grass. It's actually not the worst area to be scouting about now. I saw quite a few impalas here, so there's all the recipe for us to get lucky with one of the cats that we haven't seen a lot of late. Like I said, it would be nice if Tsemba or Kuchava showed up. The last updates on them, Tsemba was on Chitwa and Kuchava was on a net, but that was quite a number of days ago for both of them. So it would be nice if they kind of pop up. It's awfully quiet though. There's nothing on the radio, nothing to really kind of get excited about. I haven't even heard anyone called in track yet this afternoon, let alone a sighting. So one of those kind of afternoons post-rain where everything's just a little sluggish on the uptake and movement again. Neil, yes, there are bush babies in our area. In fact, where we are right now is not a bad place to look for them. They often like these areas with lots of trees that are closely packed together, particularly bush willow and terminalias. They often harvest the sap off those. So we get the lesser bush baby mostly, the smaller one. And then sometimes, if in the Mulawati maybe, you might find them at more Manuleti, Sand River, Sabi River. You'll get the thick-tailed bush babies there, which is the big one. Don't know if you can hear that clicking. Red-crested Koran, that's busy calling. Sometimes when they do that click and that call, that's their little territorial kind of call. It's like a lion roaring. And then from there, they sometimes fly up and do that suicidal dive. It's always worth, when you hear them clicking like that, just to look in that area and see if you see a bird going up into the sky and then sort of plummeting downwards. But this red-crested Koran's been here ever since I've been at WildEarth, and we've been on Chitwa. It's on this road, exactly where we are now. I pick it up here pretty much every single time. I'm sure it's the same individual. David?
Yes, sir.
Thrilling filming this, isn't it?
High action.
High action. That's why we pay you the big bucks, is to film the leaves of these trees and a very obscured sunset. Alright, well, we're going to finally get a chance to move. In the meantime, let's send you across to Lauren, who's going to give us an update on the wigs.
She sits here all day and most of the night. It's really Papa Wig, that does the hunting. And of course our Nocturnal, so he's going to hunt at night. And bring back the food to feed her, to keep her energy levels up as she's incubating. Is so sweet. And I mean, the food can be anything from insects to rodents, birds, even small mammals. I mean, spotted eagle owls are known to hunt scrub hares and bush babies. She does leave the nest sometimes to feed, and she will leave the nest absolutely to defecate 100% to keep the nest nice and hygienic. That's what we saw her doing yesterday. We managed to capture her flying off and, well, having some toilet time. And she won't defecate around the nest. Absolutely not. She can quickly leave to feed if necessary, but also the male, Papa, wherever he is, he will bring food to her. I just love you. I've spent hours and hours and hours with this female. I was telling Impo back in the day. Hours. Countless drives. But she remains on high alert. Especially at nighttime, Janets could climb up there. Hyenas. Yeah, hyena could easily get there. A leopard. Rock monitor. Wouldn't it be lovely if both eggs hatched? And we had 2 little chicks. Just always looks like she's smiling with happiness. to see our fans. Trying before I left. I was coming here every day, but the problem is we don't get signal. So it's really difficult to come here and spend time. But if we stay in this one exact spot, luckily, because the bush has thinned out, we're managing to get signal. But I was coming here every single day because I knew it was coming to that time where the wigs will be getting ready. I was hoping to maybe even catch them canoodling. But I'm so happy. Just a journey. I remember I went quite deep into it with Olivia, following the developmental stages and at what stage the chick should be at with each sort of few days it ticked by. It's quite a rapid development, really. That's what I look like when I wake up in the morning. Pre-coffee. Do you hear something? I also thought I heard something. Nana, you're asking, would Papa Wig help to look after the eggs, I think? I've got broken comms here, I'm afraid, because we're in this tricky patch. I think you're asking, would he? He stands guard. Oh, defend the eggs 100%. Incubate, not necessarily. Incubate's really done by the female. And he feeds her, he hunts, and he very much defends the nest. He's always very close by. I can't spot him right now, but he'll be here, absolutely. He'll call to her, they'll communicate, and he watches. 100% he'll help defend. So it's very much a high level of maternal and paternal care. So although he's not incubating, that doesn't mean that he's not investing. So by hunting, feeding her, making sure she keeps her energy levels up, standing guard, that's all paternal care. It's just a different gender role, really. And that's the benefit of being monogamous, I guess. You can put a higher, talking about in birds, naturally, you can put a higher level of paternal care into your offspring. And that's why they're not really brightly coloured. They don't need to attract mates. They don't need to grow this gorgeous long tail or get a breeding plumage. The energy is sort of focused on other things. And with spotted eagle owls, it's very much focused on being camouflage. Although, to be honest, they say that over 90% of birds are said to be monogamous. But when you actually read about it, it's such an interesting concept because a lot of birds who you think are monogamous are up to no good, making trouble in the neighbourhood. There's lots of examples of it in fish as well. I am getting some name suggestions, but I'm not entirely sure I'm going to be able to relay them with these comms. I think, Tony, your suggestion, Aula? Ooh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. But you're suggesting them, and that's great. Someone emailed me about Wiglet, and I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. It's very neutral, very applicable to this family, gender neutral. Wiglet, I love it. But keep on sending them in and maybe we can go through them when the comm situation's a little bit better. Look, Mama, we're already planning your baby names. But Tony, I will come back to that. I also don't have any cell phone reception. This is a complete dead spot. Why did you choose this spot? Isn't she just beautiful? And within the animal kingdom, everything really is about energetics. Energetics is your currency. There are no dollars or rand or rupiah or pounds. It's energetics. And depending on the species and your habitat and your social structure and your diet, your competitors, you've got to think of how that species will survive. Will it be that they are monogamous? Will it be that they're not monogamous? Which benefits them more? You've got to look at what type of animal it is you're looking at and the way that they reproduce, especially within birds. It makes a lot of sense for birds to be monogamous. Even your migrants, I mean, you have your Wahlberg's eagle, and they both come, they are a sort of monogamous pair seasonally. So when they leave, after the season is over, they separate. They will only reunite again when it's time to migrate back to the lowveld. Well, it's quite interesting dynamics. I'll take you for half the year and then not the rest. So they are monogamous, but only seasonally. Oh, my WhatsApp have just popped through. Fabulous. Okay. Eekok? Oh my goodness, I cannot pronounce that name. Eok. Terribly sorry if that's wrong, but you're suggesting Albert, Albert and Alberta. Albert and Alberta, love it. And Joy in Hong Kong, you're suggesting Wiglet and Twiglet. Oh, that is incredible. I love them all. Wiglet and Twiglet. Now you've got me thinking about Twiglets. I love those snacks. Thanks, Joy. But yes, I think we will do a poll because these suggestions are incredible and a lot of them are gender neutral, which is good. Because we won't really know the sex. And I read a really incredible book that I talk about called It's Not About the Bats. It's by a South African author and I really, really recommend it to anyone. It can get a little bit heavy, but it touches on the most incredible topics and it's really honest and incredibly well written, and it's called It's Not About the Bats. Obviously related to the pandemic, and it really focuses on gender naming in the animal kingdom. It's worth a read. So I love Wiglet and Twiglet because it could be boy or girl. Okay, AB. Why do y'all make your name so hard? AB Cronje. Wiggly and Waggly. Also love it. My goodness, you lot are creative. And I think that first one from Tony was I Will Laugh and Twiglet. I really love them all, guys. I love how we're sticking with the let theme. Mrs. Wig, what do you think? She's not amused. Then there's also a lot of controversy about naming animals. There's some people that are against it. and there are some people that are for it. And I understand both sides of the coin. However, I personally do feel that out here, when you are trying to educate, you are trying to get people to understand and fall in love and invest and, you know, relate to that organism, that names do help. And imagine if we didn't name the leopards here. Good afternoon, stations. I have located female leopard, spot pattern 22. It just makes it a little bit easier when you can say, hi everyone, I've located Kalamba. It's easier to trace their lineage, but I do understand both arguments. I love how trusting she is of us. She's really, really habituated. So we are going to sit here a little while longer.
Here we are. We are on an expedition. This is the expeditionary force. Behind me, we have seen Kalamba. We are very excited.
Competitors are in the room behind me right now for the birding challenge, where they have to look at pictures and identify the birds and then separately listen to bird calls and identify them. But it's not easy. This is going to be the toughest one. Here we have the previous year's winners. You can see they're trying to see if they can remember all the answers, and look at them taking a sneak peek.
Oh, it's going to be in trouble now. Oh, this is unbelievable stuff. Here comes a hippo in too. Go, Impala. There's a hippo coming in. I can't believe what we're seeing here. This is what we normally see in East Africa. It's all over. Hippo leaping at the crocodile now. Everything's gone underwater.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
We're still just admiring her. Sometimes the longer you sit, the more behaviors you can see. I remember that's what happened with Sedgwick. We just sat here, watched him, watched him learn that he had huge talons for the first time. He was shocked. Watch him stretch his wings, do his exercises. Watch him call to mom. Watch him take his first flight. Sometimes you've just got to put a little bit of time in. It was around this time that she got up last night, so I'm wondering if she'll do it again. Sienna, there are so many wonderful facts about owls, really. I mean, I think my favorite one is the head turning. And I know many of you will sort of know it already, but if you look at her eyes, they're sort of very similar to humans in that they are positioned in a binocular way. They're sitting front-facing and very close together. She doesn't have that sort of periphery or any other way of viewing than binocular vision. And naturally, because of this, in any binocular vision, there's a 70-degree overlap between the eyes. So not only are her eyes very large in order to collect light, they're very, very large because she's nocturnal. You can actually look at eye size and it can give you an indication of how that species uses eyesight. So they're large to collect light at nighttime, but their size in itself can restrict the actual mobility within the skull. So you've got a few sticking points there. She wants to be an incredible hunter at nighttime. She's got binocular vision and restrictions with mobility. So owls generally only really have a total, well, they can swivel their head basically, and it's not 360 degrees, of course it's not, but they have very flexible necks and they can actually turn their head 270 degrees. So it's not quite 360 the full way around, but 270, that's still incredible. I mean, most humans barely make it to 180. And the reason they do this is to make up for those restrictions when it comes to vision. And if you think about it, if you were to contort your neck all the way around to the back, you're going to end up cutting off that sort of blood supply to the head of your main artery in your neck. That's not going to be a good idea. You don't want to do that. So how do owls compensate for that? How are they able to turn their head 270 degrees? To almost get a full view round of what's going on around them. And how they sort of compensate for that is they actually have two arteries. We only have one. And these arteries run down both sides of the neck. So when they twist their head right, they're going to cut off the right artery, but the left one's still pumping. And vice versa. When they turn their head left, they're going to cut off the blood supply in the left artery, but that's okay because the right one's still pumping. So ultimately, it sort of provides uninterrupted blood supply, if you like. The brain constantly receives blood during these crazy neck twists. Isn't that amazing? A specialized adaptation for these birds. I think it's incredible. And it's all to increase that visual field. Some birds will have peripheral vision. And they can also sort of enjoy around the 300 to 340 degree field of vision, but owls don't. They only have, I'm sure it's 110, the 70 degree overlap in the middle. So they need to compensate for that somehow, and that's how they do it. So Sienna, that was a bit of an in-depth answer to your question, but I think that is the most fascinating fact for me. But they are incredible, full stop. Okay, we're gonna bumble on here now and let Missy's wig get some rest, see what else we can find. But let's go and take a look at our WildEarth expeditions.
Well, we're with the giraffe at the moment, not the spotted kind we were looking for, but we'll do nonetheless. It keeps staring, though, to the west, and I heard a baboon shout just now as well, so I don't know if there's something that's lurking around here. It seems as though it's going to now cross behind us, of course. David, let's turn around. Beautiful male giraffe. This is nice and dark. Where are you off to, boy? So initially, the reason why I came here is because some warthogs too, David. I think they're about to go home. Initially, why I came here is because this giraffe was staring, and I thought maybe, just maybe, it was Marief's. The last time I saw him was actually right here on that exact mound where these warthogs are kind of on the edge of. So I thought maybe he could be around, or Tandi. But then the giraffe stopped staring, started feeding, and then the baboon shouted and I was looking again down that way. I'm pretty sure Lauren is closer than I am to that, though. Lauren's, it sounds like the baboons are in the Mulawati, close to where the wigs are. So maybe Lauren heard it and something will make an appearance. We know Mulawati's been hanging around a lot in that area. But these little piggies are about to go to bed. It's getting dark now, so it's time for them to start heading into their mounds and burrows and to try and find a place to have a good sleep before all the big nasty toothy creatures come out and want to hurt them. So what you'll find is they'll go around and then they'll go inside and they'll sleep there until tomorrow morning. When the sun comes up, then they'll come out again and they can go and feed. So it's a slow little going to bed. You probably find they're just a little wary of going in right now. As we've seen before, leopards like to sit on top of the mounds, waiting for warthogs to come back in or out. And so if you kind of sitting like this, often the warthogs just watch you and they're like, is there a leopard here? Isn't there? So it's a slow approach then to their little mound. And they don't just go rushing in just in case something else is here. But you can see that female looks like she's pregnant as well now. Her stomach is nice and swollen. So those two little ones would have been from last year. And then she'll have her next batch, and these little ones will stay with her even with the next batch. There you go. You see they're going up into the mound. I know exactly where home is, these little guys. Super cute when they go and tuck themselves in. See if they will go in while we're sitting here. If we sit quietly, I'd imagine they'll eventually go in. It's just always a slow approach, just in case. In we go, and they'll go and line up like little pork sausages inside there, and have a nice comfortable sleep and be warm and out of the apparent rain that's supposed to come tonight. She heard some thunder just now when we stopped on Chitta. You can see how pregnant she is and how many she's going to have in her litter this year. Fortunately, generally lose a couple. It's difficult for piglets to survive. They get hunted by a number of things. So you see how the little ones went in head first? You see the difference? She goes in bum first. And that's so that if anything comes in the night, like a leopard, for example, or lion, her tusks are facing forward and she can protect her babies. So she reverses in rather than going in head first like the babies. Very cool. Not often you get to see warthogs going to bed like that, so that was cool. David, did you like that?
Loved it.
Wonderful. Let's leave them to themselves to have a nap. It was very cool to witness. Our giraffe is still looking off in that direction. You see it keeps staring there, David. I think we should go and investigate around Cheetah Cutline. You never ever know. Maybe Tandi's moving around somewhere here. Well, I think it's because I can see an elephant. That's what it's looking at. Lizette, no. Black-footed cats are more arid area animals. So central parts of South Africa and Kalahari, those areas, you get them there, but I've never heard of one being seen here. Do you see that lightning, David? It's very far still, but definitely lightning on the horizon. There's thunder now as well. But now I know what this giraffe is watching and why it keeps looking that way is elephants that I saw. I think it was an elephant that was moving through the bush there. So their breaking of branches and movement will definitely trigger the giraffe to look in that direction. Oof, I hope the storm doesn't come and catch us before the end of this drive. We still have a while to go. Arthur, I mean, pretty far. If you look at a giraffe, it's got a big eye and a very, very long neck, which means it sees over the top of everything and is able to see a long, long way. How far exactly is really dependent on the terrain that they're in. How thick is the bush? Is it open? Is it lots of trees? Is the grass very tall? All of those will impact how far they see. Also, available light is a part of that. So difficult to say exactly how far it will be different for different areas. But their eyesight will be no worse than ours, that's for sure, in terms of kind of depth perception and distance, except that they won't have the same ability. So depth perception, actually, there's a difference there because their eyes are on the side of their heads. They're not on the front, so they don't have binocular vision like we do. They have a much bigger field of view, but they're not able to judge distance as well as what we would. But they pick up movement pretty well, and they are sharp. I mean, I've watched giraffe before, and if a leopard walks anywhere near them, or a lion, wild dogs, they pick it up immediately. The only time they don't is when it's quite dense bush or the edges of riverbeds and things like that, and they come walking along and the animals, like lions, aren't moving. And then they get chased through these thickets and fall over, or through drainage lines and fall over. That's when giraffe get killed. And prides will have to specialize in it. It's not easy hunting things like giraffe. Typically in this area, it's only if there's a big, massive injury on that animal that they get picked off. 2 evokers, just because earlier I was mentioning them in Chitwa and all that, are nowhere near Chitwa. So the person that called them in clearly has not learnt the roads yet, because they're actually on Little Gowrie. They're nowhere near Chitwa or Hofmans. So yeah, he's very confused as to where he is. Let's try and get this guy crossing the road. There's a staff transport vehicle that's in front of us as well. Eric, who's 14 years old, yes, there has been recorded cases of giraffe being struck by lightning. So it does happen from time to time. There's also cases of other animals like wildebeest and buffalo and those kinds of things also being struck by lightning. So it can happen. I remember once we had at Singita, I can't remember the exact number now. I want to say 13 wildebeest that were found dead with the Sparta pride eating on them. And it was thought that it potentially could have been lightning that hit them, because the chances of one pride catching 14 wildebeest in a very small area is almost zero, considering that there wasn't even 14 members of the pride. But yeah, it was an interesting thing to see. It was definitely somewhere there, 13, 14, I think I remember. Might have even been more, actually. But yeah, it was a very unique and weird event. So the guys weren't 100% sure, but they think maybe lightning was involved. But yeah, elephants, giraffe, it has happened. I've never seen it here, because here it would be tricky. There's a lot of big, tall trees here. So giraffe aren't the tallest part of the landscape. But if they're under a tall tree, then it's very possible they can get hit. Remember, we had a duiker, a lot of you will remember this, that was hit by lightning. So it was sitting under a knobthorn, and the knobthorn got struck. And the duiker was at the base of the knobthorn and was killed instantly. So even something as small as a duiker can suffer at the hands of lightning. I'll keep quiet for a little bit. Maybe you guys can hear the thunder rolling in the background, and we might, the angle that we're at now, we might get one of those bolts of lightning in the background of this giraffe. I don't know if you can hear that high-pitched stridulation that's taking place. It's the first night that I've heard the crickets stridulating. Sounds like summer. So cool to hear it again. Oh, I haven't heard that in months, this kind of sound. It's so nice just to sit and listen. While I hate the rain on safari, or like driving around in it, and I hate kind of problems it poses for us, summer is by far my favorite few months out here. It's just life everywhere, and it's beautiful and it's pretty. Makes for enthralling days, because you're never really at a loss for anything. If you're just willing to look for 2 minutes, you pick things up out in the summer months. And I love the sound, particularly at night, of frogs and insects and everything else. Alrighty, our giraffes moving off. The elephants seem like they're right here, so I just want to go catch up with them. I saw one here somewhere. Hey guys. You know what the next things are, David? Cicadas. When they come out, that's the sound of summer. I love that sound. So for those of you that have no idea what stridulation is, or what I was talking about when I said stridulating insects, it's when they have a resonating organ on their body and they use their legs to tap on that resonating organ on a membrane that's over it, much like what you would get with the drum, and that causes this sound that you're picking up at the moment. There's the ellies there, I can see them now. Alright, so I'm just going to go and get to where the elephants are. They're a little bit up the road here. Hopefully get some nice visuals of them, even though it's getting dark.
We're slowly and slowly melting into the darkness. There is actually a thunderstorm happening behind us. Hello, little scrub here. Shall we have a look at the scrub here? Oh no, no! No, the scrub here didn't want to be seen. That's okay. And of course, if the lightning comes any closer, we will have to hunker down, put that antenna down. But it does seem quite far away for now, so that's a good thing. I do love a good thunderstorm. Especially when you're at sea. All that energy swirling around you from the ocean, from the storm. I love it. It always reminds me how small we are. And I don't mean my height of 5'2". I mean, as humans, how we just fit into the puzzle. We're not dominant, we're not the top, we're not the only reason that the planet is here. We're just a small piece of the puzzle. And for some reason, storms always remind me of that. But I am going to keep checking behind to make sure that it's not following closely, and I don't think it is. So of course, with this change in ambient light, it will very soon, not quite yet, be the time to start looking for the nocturnal animals. I'm loving the fact that it's not winter anymore and I don't have to wrap up. Hands are not falling off with the cold. Your nose and mouth are not numb. I'm actually wearing shorts. Okay, we're gonna keep bumbling into the dark and hopefully bump into somebody.
Ellies are right next to us. I'm just going to keep quiet so you can hear them walking past us. Nice to hear all of the sounds of the bushes moving and the grass as they walk through. Comes a little baby. Looks like quite a nice sized herd of elephants. There's quite a number of them in this group. The little baby is going where mom has been digging and exposing roots, learning all the time. I must admit, some of my most treasured Ellie sightings are those that are at times of the day like this, when it's dark and dingy and there's not a lot of light, even like full moon sometimes. And the reason why I enjoy it so much is that a lot of the time when people come out on safari, they get very wrapped up in like taking photographs and, you know, all of a sudden just kind of trying to get as many pictures as possible without actually taking the moment in. And because of this time of the day, especially with elephants, there's no lights on them or anything like that. Photography is impossible. You can't really, without an infrared light, you're not going to win with this. So it allows people the chance to actually just sit and to take it in and enjoy the experience. I think, you know, and I'm certainly very guilty of this. We're so quick to grab cameras and things like that that we sometimes forget just how good it is for ourselves just to sit and actually absorb what's going on. Take in the sounds, take in the smells, watch, learn, and just enjoy it. Don't always have to see through a screen or an eyepiece to capture the world around you. You know, sometimes what needs to be done is for us to just take in the world ourselves and make that a memory that you'll cherish. You know, as much as photographs always are things that you can look back on and they can remind you of something, if you haven't had that moment where you've just stopped and you've just at least taken it in and absorbed what's happening around you, then that memory for that photograph is never going to be as strong. Whereas if you sit and you actually just enjoy and sort of marvel at what you're experiencing, I think that always leaves a much more lasting imprint in our own minds, and this time of the day is always good for that. And I like the fact that with elephants particularly is that they become almost ghostly at this time of the day. They're so big and so powerful, and in the day the magnitude of them is there, but when it gets dark and it's at night, that's kind of lost. They become something that melts into the bush right next to you, and I like that you can just make them out by hearing them and sometimes just slight movement, but otherwise they kind of blend in, and like I said, they become almost like little grey ghosts around your vehicle, which is cool. Definitely some big rumbles coming from the south. So Donovan is 10 years old. The elephant's eyesight is pretty similar to what ours is. They might not have as deep a color perception as what we do, but it's close, it's not far off. That's because most animals that feed off any sort of fruit need to know coloration. They need to know what is edible, what isn't, is it ripe, isn't it? So their eyesight is not too far off what ours is from a color perception point of view, and even from a light perception point of view. So they don't see fantastically well in the dark. But luckily for them, because they're not massively hunted by a lot of animals, they don't need perfect eyesight in the dark. Their hearing and their sense of smell can make up for it during that period. There's another one here to your left, David. This will be a lot easier for you. It's not going to push the eye out nearly as far as what the others are. Also notice that the ears on these animals are still flapping quite heavily, so it's still very warm. It's that pre-storm warmth that you get, and the wind has completely died now. And when the wind stops like this, after the storm starts to arrive and you start to hear thunder and lightning, and the wind stops, then it's always a good chance that you're going to get a fairly good rain out of it. The problem with thunderstorms is they can be very isolated. So while we might hear thunder and lightning, the rain might fall on Londolozi and Elephant Plains and we don't get a drop. It happens quite regularly in the summer months that the rain can be very, very, very patchy. I remember a couple of years ago, the Manyeleti got over 100 millimeters of rain. And here at Djuma, I think we got 17. Now, as the crow flies from where that 100 was to the 17, was probably only about 15 kilometers. So it's not a long way. David, you're making friends back there.
Oh, yeah.
Sheena, you say nighttime ellies, you love them. Yeah, and I find the ellies can be quite relaxed at night. They don't stress too much. Like I say, I wish everybody could experience a full moon with elephants. So like at a waterhole or something like that. Full moon, and you just sit there quietly, and while you can see very little, the moon is bright enough that you can at least see the outlines of them and them moving, and then that sound of the water and the slurping and the drinking and the droplets falling and the shuffling and the little grumbles that they give each other. It's a very, very, very special experience to be in amongst them in a full moon. But obviously you've got to be very careful with that, is that you don't put lights on them. They're very sensitive to light. In fact, it's one of the techniques you can use if an elephant's disrupting you or trying to kind of be a bit more sort of full of it at night, is a spotlight at their eye, and it will often drive them to turn away from you. We obviously don't do it as much as we can, but if you're in a situation where you're in a bit of a bind and Ellie is being a little aggressive and you don't really know what to do, often lights in their eyes can be enough to deter them and turn them away from you. Which is the opposite of what a lot of other animals are like. So things like buffalo, and they come towards the light, whereas these guys don't like it. They shy away from it. It's like us, you don't want a spotlight in your eye, so you'll turn away from it. It's the same with ellies. It can be sometimes enough to break a sort of negative response to us. What a beautiful evening, though. Does phase of the moon, is that what Amanda was asking, David?
Just does the moon.
Does the moon affect behavior of elephants? Yeah, to a degree. I've always noticed over full moon that they are a lot more active and a lot more vocal for some reason at night, particularly. It's probably because they can see a lot more at night, so they move around and interact with their environment more. You probably find on new moons they typically aren't as mobile and generally not going too crazy. But I always find full moon makes them a little more feisty and a little more kind of active. Oh, there goes a big tree, I'm afraid. A little bit more active. What I'm going to do is just want to turn quickly. I'm going to go in front and just turn on them so that we have the backdrop of the lightning, so that if there is any lightning we can actually see it. I'm just going to go forward a bit, David, and then I'll turn us. Just going to drive. Guys, why are we breaking all the trees down? There's no need for that. I'm going to turn my lights on right now. I can see enough to know where I'm going, and it's open enough here because we're on the fire break not to worry too much. I can smell rain, David. Can you smell it? It smells like damp, wet earth. Just tell me where you want me, David, because I can't see nicely what you can see. I'll stop here for now. So the backdrop should be behind that elephant, is where the lightning should come from if we do get any. So it'll just be nice to kind of line it up, and if there's a bit of a light show to the south, it will kind of come through behind the ellies. You'll also see probably a number of car lights because the main road is also running behind them. So if you do see car lights, it's just all the guides starting to head back to camp now, or at least doing the sort of last little bit of their drives. It's weird, the clouds don't look heavy. They don't look like a big thunderstorm. They just look fairly innocuous. Carly, who's all the way from New York. Yes, Carly, it is. Now is our start of our thunderstorm season. So we start from now and it goes all the way normally until about March. We get the big ones. By April, it's changed to more kind of softer drizzle, but you can still get them in April. And by May itself, it's pretty much done. We don't really get many thunderstorms after that. But in the summer months, like so from now, October, November, December, January, February, March, we can get some pretty violent, pretty big thunderstorms, and they are seriously impressive. When you get one of those massive electrical storms out here, it's amazing to sit and just watch how that rolls in, and then the lightning show that gets put on sometimes can be on a whole nother level. I absolutely love that. It's obviously not great in a car, I mean open vehicle, but if you can be, in a camp or something like that where you've got some sort of a view and you can see those lightning bolts coming down and the cloud cover and they're kind of rolling in, it's a pretty spectacular show to watch, and it's a display of nature at its rawest and most powerful, I find, when you get those kind of lightning episodes. But there hasn't been a bolt for a while now. There was one just now, but it's not very consistent. You can just see slight flashes every now and then. There's every now and then proper bolts that you can see, but a lot of it is also still quite obscured. Like I say, it's weird because the cloud coming in doesn't look strong. It just looks innocuous. It's not really looking like it's got too much to it. Rude, yeah, I suppose they do when it's their first thunderstorm. So if they've been born in the period since the last one and they don't know it, then yeah, they'll get a little fright and probably run towards mom. But very quickly, they learn that thunder and lightning is going to be part of their environment. The big cows and stuff, they don't really worry about it. The little ones get a little nervy and they'll definitely come much closer to mom and just sit by mom. But when they see mom's not reacting and they see that she's calm, that's a calming influence on them themselves, and they start to understand. And same with their siblings. The siblings all calm, then everybody kind of is showing that animal not to worry. And you must remember in nature, a lot of the baby animals take their cues from their mothers. If their mothers aren't panicked and aren't moving and ducking for cover or running or scared or talking to them, then they themselves calm right down and will feel a lot more comfortable in that space. And once they've had 2 or 3 storms, then they're pretty good with knowing what is going on. Alright, well, we'll probably just sit with these ellies for a while longer. We've still got about an hour left of our drive, so just going to see if we hear anything from here, and why not just spend time with them.
If you are a WildEarth explorer, then we are excited to announce that there is another unique prize for you to win. Sign up to be an explorer before the 16th of October 2021, and you and a friend could be heading off to an eco-training ranger experience. This 2-night opportunity offers a living and learning adventure where you will combine seeing incredible nature with gaining knowledge on how animals live in the wild. You will approach dangerous game on foot, learn how to track, do some 4x4 driving, and have an exclusive opportunity to join the WildEarth team behind the scenes on the live show. After each action-packed day, you will relax around the campfire and listen to the nighttime choir of animal sounds before you drift off to sleep. WildEarth explorers, it's in your nature.
And I turned to Shaw and I saw that she had this panicked look on her face. Either she was afraid that something had happened or she was afraid that she was going to miss out on something. But instead of her missing out on those lions, we drove up next to them and I switched off the car so that she could hear what was going on. Now, these lions had killed a kudu, and she could hear these 2 cubs, both 8 months old at the time, busy pushing and shoving each other out the way to get to the best parts of the meat. And the mom was lying just to the side in the shade. Now, I'd known that before losing her sight, Sean probably knew what a lion looked like. But I really wanted her to know what this lion looked like. So for the first time in my guiding career, I started to describe to someone what a lion looked like. And I found that, I started to notice things in that lion that I'd never seen before.
Goodness, look at its wobbly legs. Oh, I don't believe it. I can't believe we've actually seen it. Oh my goodness. Oh, careful, careful, careful. Oh no. Oh, it's okay, little one. Okay.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
We have just stopped on quarantine. Our spotlight is not working. What have they done to you, Wendy? I've come back and Wendy's in such bad condition. So it's going to be a little bit tricky driving around for an hour with no spotlight. But I guess we shall do our best and see if we can find anything on the road. We've got the IR tool, which is fantastic, but we obviously use that when we can pick up eye shine. But I'm not going to be able to pick up eye shine without a spotlight. But anyway, we shall try. I would quite like to keep moving. What do you think, Paul? Because if the lions really did cross, I mean, I couldn't see any signs of them, but if they really did cross, then they should be getting mobile. I'm just going to keep my lights off. I don't like blinding the impala. I read a paper about how it really affects them. So I just keep my dims on in this situation. Hello, impala. But if the Talamatis were moving east into Djuma, you may have to turn this down a tad, Paul. There we go. Then they should be moving in this trajectory, but of course if they've gone north towards Sydney's Dam, then we have no chance. But we may as well check. It's also a really, really good time to listen. My goodness, there are just impala everywhere. Okay, we're just gonna scoot by these impala and just do a little bit of a last minute scratch around for the lions. And I believe Mr. Dix is still sitting with his elephants.
Well, most animals are not a huge fan of lights, and, well, anything at night that kind of deters them from being able to see. So we try and keep our lights off as much as possible. That's why we're just sitting in the dark with these ellies and just listening. You'll see the odd flash in the background, which is nice. And we've got a couple of ellies that have come nice and close to where we are, so the audio is really good at the moment of them having a good feed. It's interesting, it seems that lightning is getting further afield rather than closer. I think there's just no air moving, so the storm just seems like it's sitting rather than actually approaching. Did you get that one, David?
Not sure.
You're not sure? It's a nice bolt that came down. It's also nice because it's getting dark enough now that you can actually start seeing them quite clearly. And it's still much lighter. The bolts are a lot harder to pick up. You don't get that same colour that comes through. Well, or tonal contrast is probably better given that we're in infrared and it's black and white for you guys. Love listening to them eat. It's also incredible how there's so much food on this firebreak. There's lots and lots of different bush willows that are growing, but yet you'll see they will fight every now and then over the same tree. So it might just be a tree that hasn't produced tannins yet, and so both animals want to feed off it at the same time, and often it's younger animals that come into where an older one is and try and kind of take over. Sorry, I'm just looking in the distance. There must be a sighting running somewhere in Little Gowrie or Vessels, because I can see three spotlights very close together which is often an indication of something going on. It's not too far from Chitwa though. The evokers were on, the 2 evokers, so in case of those of you that were wondering where, Little Gowrie is not a property we traverse. It's south, and where they were was directly south of, if you had to draw a line from the camp, straight southwards. It would be inside Little Gowrie there, quite close to the Hoffman's boundary. Then try to get an update and find out where they're going from there. Maybe that's them and they've moved further to the southeast, back towards sort of Mala Mala area, which we know they spend a lot of time on these days. Fortunately not a place we can go. You'll see the lights just over the top of the heads of these elephants. But what's been interesting is how still it is tonight in terms of nocturnal sounds. I haven't heard a single roar, alarm call, even hyena whoop. Alicia, you're asking what are the most important sounds to listen out for at night? So it depends what you're looking for. If we're talking game drive, predator, because predators are really what you're looking for at night. You're not typically going to spend a lot of time with elephants because people visually can't get to see them, so they, unless you're a very specific type of people or you have a guide that's very kind of in tune with being able to ask people to sit and explain why and allow people to experience something like what we are doing right now. Oh, you can hear the thunder rumbling. Then, people lose patience and they want to go and see cats. And so if you're looking for something like that, then what you're looking for is audio of lions roaring, leopards sawing, any sort of cackling and laughter. And now, for what? You and I are going to have an argument if you're going to behave like that. Don't behave that way. There's all the space in the world. So now we're going to just sit and eat right in front of the car after we've had some attitude with us. Now it's time to sit and eat. But yeah, so basically getting back to what I was saying, is any sort of cackling, whooping from hyenas that would indicate them on a kill or excited, because that's when they're around something. And then any sort of alarm calls, so if you hear impalas alarming or wildebeest snorting or kudu barking, so those are the kind of things you're going to look out for at night from a predator, land-based predator point of view. The other thing that you look out for at night is any nocturnal sounds. So if you hear maybe something like a Verreaux's eagle owl that's calling and it's a place that you can get to, or a scops owl or a pill-spotted owlet or barred owlet, you're able to then go and find those. So those are kind of nocturnal signs to watch out for. But it really is very different to the daytime. You can track a little bit at night, but it's normally just picking up the tracks on the road and then driving on those tracks and following them and hoping that the animal stays in the road. So I've done that a few times with lion prides. Particularly much easier to follow a lion pride track than it is a leopard track at night, but you can still do leopard tracks too. So that behavior that we just witnessed right now, this is interesting because it's 2 things that have happened there. Firstly, a calf is crossed in front of us and the mother has then come over the road behind it. The calf was still moving away when the mother got to the road, and that head shake, I'm pretty sure, was her saying, my calf is here, you stay exactly where you are, I don't want you any further than that. But you see, as soon as we stayed still and we didn't move, her behavior changed and she started to feed and she started to walk, and she's now very relaxed. There's no ear flaring, there's no trumpeting at us, there's no head shaking, there's no tail that's out. Had she been really getting upset with us, all of that behavior would have changed and she wouldn't turn her back on us now. The other thing is that in those moments, I've seen it happen time and time again, particularly in places like the Kruger Park where people drive themselves. An elephant does that and then they panic and they start the car and try to reverse quickly away. And that will often trigger the animal to actually charge you. So when you're in a situation where you have made the decision that you want to sit and view elephants in the dark or in daylight even, and that the elephants are approaching closely, don't start your engine when they get on top of you. If you're feeling uncomfortable, start when they're at least a distance away, that it feels like you'll be okay. and you can move. Don't start when they're right close, because then the amount of time that you've got to move away from them, as well as their reaction, is completely condensed, and the animal itself feels like it's got no space to move and no ability to get away from you, and then it can be a lot more aggressive. So in those situations, the best thing to do is just sit dead still and not do anything, and then she'll eventually calm and move. Remember, she's also made the conscious decision to come from further afield towards where you are in a non-threatening manner. It's only when she's gotten close that she's warned you to say, that's close enough, I don't want you any closer than you are right now. You stay where you are, let my little calf go. Once the calf's out the way, you could see she just meandered on and left us pretty safely. So yeah, don't start your car and drive away. Also, cheeky bull elephants, they cause a lot of problems with people because they do stuff like this. All right, David, I need to dig for my spotlight here. I don't even know where it is in all of this. I don't know if you can still see an elephant there while I dig around here. David's going to try and see if we can get an alien. We'll just sit and see what else we can find. I'll try and find a spotlight, actually, is what I'm going to do. Well, everybody, I do apologize for any sort of noise that you're going to hear. I'm trying to find my spotlight under a 1,000,001 rain covers that I've got in this car, because I wasn't very trusting of the weather. While we took the roof off, I just wanted all our rain covers and stuff to be at hand, that we could just quickly put them on if we need to. And I actually might not be too wrong, given the sort of skyline to our south. You've got no visual. Well, then don't worry, David. We shall carry on, because I've got my spotlight now. Oh, wonderful, isn't it? You may come back to me now, David. Sure, for we shall drive. David, where would you like to go? Do you want to go central? Do you want to go Gari Main and then Twin Dams? What do you want to do? Gari Main, Twin Dams. Alrighty, you're the boss. Ooh, David? I think sitting in the dark was a much better idea. There are insects everywhere tonight. I'm gonna go blind tonight, David. I should have worn glasses. Try and shine away from my eyes a little bit so I don't get blinded, particularly while I'm on roads where I can kind of see what I'm doing and where I'm going. I think once we get out of these little bush willow areas, I think we'll be a bit better off. There's definitely a monstrous increase in insects tonight. Some impalas, David? Alright, we're going to go bumbling off to Twin Dams as per David's request, and we'll see what may be lurking that side of the world.
Impo and I have just heard the most disturbing noise coming from in this block, and we can't quite determine what it was, and it's not repeated itself. I don't have a spotlight, so I'm not willing to bash into a block without enough light. That's foolish. And it's a little bit tricky to know what it was, so it was loud. I'm just astounded. I mean, the lions could be in this area. That's why we're just driving really, really slowly. And I feel like I could maybe just fake spotlight. Did you hear the thunder? Ooh, sheet lightning. Okay, now it's getting really eerie. Impo. Strange noises, darkness, lightning, thunder. I don't know if you guys can hear that at home, but what was that noise? Something was in distress, but I can't determine what. And sometimes when you're not prepared for a noise and you hear a noise once and it shocks you, you need to hear it again before you can understand what it actually was. But we're just going to have to work with these little sidelights here. But I may need your questions, everybody, since I can't actively seek animals in the nighttime. Greg, I really couldn't possibly answer that question. I love where you're going with it, but animals covers every living organism, including ourselves. So everything has a different hearing range, from your elephants to your lions to your insects. Then you have fish that can detect pressure changes from even in the water. Insects, vibration. Answer, animals, I'm afraid, is very, very broad. But I am more than sure that animals can detect a thunderstorm long before we can. And it won't just be from sound, that'll just be from feeling change in atmospheric pressure. I think humans are very detached from that. We live mostly on our phones nowadays and have to force ourselves to spend time out in nature. But I think animals are very much aware of pressure changes. They know when something's rolling in. But as for hearing, it really depends what animal you're talking about, sorry. But I think most animals will hear it from very far. I really don't know what that noise is. It's unfortunate. I'll do a loop though. We'll keep looping and see if we can pick up on at least trying to figure out what it was. I'm using my sidelight as a spotlight. And even on the reefs, and I'm speaking about the ocean because I like to try and integrate and ensure everyone that everything is connected. Even if it doesn't look like it is, it is. Animals are connected to everything, every organism. Sorry, insect in my mouth, apologies. Let's exclude humans this time, is connected to the nutrient cycle, the carbon cycle, how the soil moves, how the vegetation moves, how everything grows, how the coral reef grows. All organisms in that ecosystem are connected to that. So even on the reef, if you go snorkeling and you know a thunderstorm's approaching, the fish know before you. You go snorkeling and they've all reacted. And you won't find a single fish on the reef. They'll all be hiding. And it's amazing, how did they know that? Animals are so in tune to the world around them. I might pick up a little bit of speed. I've never spotlighted like this before, but improvise. Frank, of course. Natural big wild space, absolutely. We don't have the sort of technology to be able to show you the stars really, but absolutely fantastic place to stargaze. Not so much during the storms of summer, of course. Stargazing is really fantastic. Another thing that humans forget to do often. We did a lot of astronomy down at Marataba when we went to the Safari Guide of the Year. And it's really, really fascinating to just take the time out from looking for animals and look up at the sky. It's another thing that makes you feel incredibly small. But yes, stargazing is wonderful here. But any big open space, really, when you don't have heavy cloud cover, and you don't have pollution, light pollution, then that's normally really good for stargazing. Okay, Impala, you guys are chilled. So nothing's happening at this side of the world. That's so frustrating. I really wanted to bash on in and know what made that noise, but I just don't think it's wise without lights, without appropriate lights. Wendy's fearless, but you've got to consider the animals. You don't want to drive into an animal because you didn't see it. I'm going to pick up some speed. I mean, I'm not really working the spotlight well. And we'll see if we can figure out what it was, at least get an answer. Impala's here also. You guys are everywhere. Let's see if I can drive in complete darkness. I should know these roads so well now that I can do this. Okay, I think we've cleared the bulk of the Impalas. There we go. Impala plains. I mean, if you drive Impala plains and there's no Impalas, it's very worrying. Maybe if we go back to where we heard the noise and just turn off the engine, it's not going to be very exciting, but just try and listen. An hour in darkness. We've been finishing really before we get plunged into darkness. And I must say, I need to get my nocturnal eyes back on again. They have just been everywhere. I love the smell though. Okay, it was roughly in this area. I wish we'd been live to hear it and maybe you could have helped me identify the noise, but sadly. Upset elephant. Very upset elephant. Is it just a tantrum or is it something else? Do you think it was coming from the same place, Impo? Yeah, there's something going on in this block. The slower I go, the more I can hear. Okay, I'm just gonna make it a little bit further ahead and turn off. It's a challenge for me tonight. But let's hope we can finally figure out what's going on in there.
me, the best part about being a guide is being able to live out in Africa's wild places and being able to share that with people. Of all the challenges, for me, the one that I'm probably the most comfortable with is the game drive. I think that's what I do most days, so that would probably be what I feel like I'd do the best at. Almost like someone's put little Lego blocks up there and made this perfect little sort of statue, and there's another one further along as we drive. One of the challenges I'm the most nervous about would probably be shooting. I think on the day there's always quite a bit of pressure and intimidation, always associated with it, but I guess we'll see how it goes. I hope I'll win this competition, but if I don't, it's still been an experience of a lifetime, and I've learned a lot and met a lot of really, really cool people.
We've seen these ellies really chase wild dogs before to get into spot. There we go, there it comes. Look at that, isn't that amazing?
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Apologies, everyone. I just need to take a sip of water. That's better. No luck so far. It's obviously just an upset elephant, but it's amazing. We've driven round and round this block and we can't see them. It's amazing how they're in there and you can hear them, but you can't see them. But this was the elephant's, not the elephant's, the lion's trajectory, so I did just wonder if maybe that was causing the distress, but of course it could also be a youngster that's just not a happy bunny. The storm is coming in fast. Well, we've done a loop, I'm afraid. Okay, we're going to keep just searching this area. Hopefully get lucky.
Operating for 27 years, Eco Training is the pioneer and leader in safari guide and wildlife training in Africa. WildEarth has been working closely with Eco Training to promote the safari guide industry and create awareness for its importance. This is why, for 1 month only, we are offering all WildEarth viewers an opportunity to receive a discount on an Eco Training safari guide course. Contact Eco Training today to find out more, and remember to quote Eco Wild Live to receive your discount.
Treehouse Dam, and the storm is slowly kind of coming in. You can see lots of lightning behind us at the moment, or you might see flashes on the reflection of Treehouse itself. We thought we'd just stop here for a little bit and again just listen. I think always a good thing when you at night and you don't have anything at the time is just to stop and listen a little bit, and you never know, maybe you get a saw or you get a roar or you get a alarm call, and that leads you to the next thing. So I like just turning off for 5 minutes at various little strategic points in the hope that we'll hear something. Lightning is definitely getting more intense and seemingly closer too. Hopefully it will bypass us before the end of this drive and we won't get hit. But the wind is definitely now also starting to pick up. So when I was saying earlier, you get that calmness, and then the storm itself arrives with the wind. So just trying to feel which way this wind is blowing. Oh, it feels like it's coming from the south west, which is where that storm actually is. So almost like it's being pushed onto us now. But otherwise it's awfully still. I've heard only one hyena calling in the entire time we've been switched off with those elephants, and even sitting here, and we've been here for a good 5 minutes or so. But there's only been that one whoop, which is strange. You know, Jim always used to have a lot of hyena whoops in evenings. So it's just going to take a bit of time for us to get used to being in the dark for much longer than we're used to what we have been doing. But we've only been doing sort of 20 or 15 minutes or 30 minutes and getting used to it and being used to that again. Pretty though, this lightning. I mean, unfortunately, actually, I'm facing the wrong way for this. I need to almost be facing south. What I might do is go up towards quarantine and then just turn off there for the rest of the show and just kind of watch the lightning. So it's a nice thing to do, even though, you know, we obviously look for animals a lot of the time, but sometimes it's nice just to enjoy a storm coming in. You can see a spotlight every now and then. Amazing, actually, how much you see when you turn all the lights off, how there's things that just appear. So spotlights and car lights and lodges, you can see where each individual lodge is just based off the light that's coming off of them. It's pretty cool. I wonder what lodge that is, David. You see the big white. I wonder if it's in coral or if that's chitwa. One of those two in that direction. Maybe in coral. There's a lot of light off of the eastern horizon. All right, David, let's carry on. Yeah, like I say, we'll find a spot where we can face south and then just watch the lightning. Hello, you're asking what's my favorite thing about Mother Nature. Probably the unexpected. There's no rules out here. Everything is adaptable and changeable in order to survive. So no matter how hard it gets, no matter how difficult it gets, there's always a way, and nature will always find some kind of way to adapt, and that's always unexpected for us. We always like to compartmentalize things and think that everything has structure and it always has to be a certain way, but that's not always how things work. So the unpredictability of it and the resilience of it is probably the two big things for me about Mother Nature. It's also supremely resilient. No matter how much we're throwing at it as a species, and most of it bad, there's still a way that these animals and ecosystems try and survive, and as soon as you actually give them a break and you remove that pressure, they bounce back within this quick succession, and it's just amazing how that happens. So resilience and unpredictability are my two favorite things about Mother Nature. So many things to learn from both of those. That feels like you can become a lot more connected to not only the world but to yourself when you actually spend time in it. Valuable lessons out here in many ways. David, what about you? This feels like a good question to ask you as well.
I like the storm.
The storms. It's your favorite thing about Mother Nature. Okay. Fair enough. Storms are power. Unpredictable as well. They can be beautiful too. If you're not an impala on quarantine, getting lashed by hail and rain and lightning. I think that's a fair enough assessment. Also, probably something you could throw in the hat there would be the diversity of Mother Nature. Isn't it incredible that we have so many different species of animals, birds, insects, sea creatures, algae, fungus, bacteria, there's all these things, and they all somehow fit together to allow things to actually work. It's, for me, a marvel. Something to be appreciative of, that's what we're at and what we have. Michelle, you say it's amazing how Mother Nature works. I think so. I think it's, it's something that's, until you stop and actually just think about it for 2 seconds, it doesn't even take long to think about these kinds of things, but until you actually do it, you forget just how unbelievable it is that the natural world exists and how it exists. There's not many words that can describe it, and some people will never really truly open themselves up to it and understand it, but I think if you're watching this show, it smells very much like a leopard, David. If you're watching the show, or people like us that live and do this and have made this your lifestyle, then you have a deep appreciation for Mother Nature, and even in that we find that we sometimes don't actually appreciate it the way we should. I mean, I know I'm guilty of it. I often go on a game drive and I'm like, oh, another game drive, here we go, and it's not a hugely burning desire to be out there, but then when you're out there and you actually stop for 2 seconds and you're just like, oh wow, I get to see this, I got to saw that, I got to experience that today, then you start to kind of realize very quickly just how special it is and how lucky all of us are. I mean, you watching at home, us kind of driving the vehicles, and the cameramen that I get to film this stuff, how lucky we are to be in one of the few places in the world these days that is natural and I mean, I know there's human influence in this reserve, but that's a whole other debate, but there is a semblance of natural kind of beauty out here and Mother Nature at work, and that's a very special thing. So I think sometimes we're a little bit negligent in our thanks for being able to actually spend time out here and do the things that we do. There's a giraffe disappearing into a thicket there, David. Not going to be filmable, I don't think, with IR. There's about 1,000,001 branches in the way, I'm afraid. Alright, so we're just going to get up towards quarantine, and I'm going to point the car south, and we should actually, in fact, here might be a nice place. We'll have a little look at the storm as it's rolling in. Alright, I'm just going to park here. It's a nice vista and vantage point to be able to see the storm rolling in from the south. We should get some really nice lightning. We'll be able to hear a bit of thunder, so I'm just going to sit quietly and let you guys listen. hope some of this is coming out on the camera. It's absolutely beautiful to watch. There's the clouds being highlighted by the lightning and the odd bolt that comes actually down that we can see nicely. And then the odd little rumble slowly drifting through. Very cool. Alright, I think we're just going to spend the rest of the drive just sitting right here, enjoying this view.
Impo and I are just sitting here watching the storm. There's really not much I can do in pure darkness and not a spotlight, I'm afraid. So we're just going to sit here together like friends and watch the storm. You can ask me anything. And we're just going to enjoy this energetic force coming towards us. We are in infrared, but you can see the flashes of lightning, and I hope you're able to hear the thunder. Wow. Can you hear that? Russell, whoa. Russell, you're asking what I missed the most. A few things. There are obviously frustrations with some of the technology here, but missed my colleagues. It was so good to catch up with everyone, and of course the animals, and just being on drive with you guys. Missed the hyenas terribly, the leopards, the sounds, the smells. I missed it all. Naturally, I was having an absolutely epic adventure. It really was incredible. But I missed the bush. The bush gets a hold of you and doesn't let go. I haven't found many animals since coming back. It's said to be really quiet here. But it'll boom again soon. Things will change. The ebb and flow. And it's exactly the same with the ocean. Some days we went to this very special bay to look for mantas, and there were no mantas. The next day you go and there was about 186. I mean, 5 mantas is enough, and then you get 186. It was Davi's first experience with a manta ray as well, and well, he got that whole experience. But it's the same anywhere. There's an ebb and a flow. There's shifts. And I believe it's nature's way. You can't go on every single dive and see what you want. You can't go on every single drive and see what you want. Then you wouldn't appreciate it. I like to call that the ebb and flow of the bush. Wowza. I'm trying not to look too directly at this. The storm is incredible. Wonder if this will just rumble on all through the night. One of my favourite storms, electrical storms, here in Djuma was on quarantine, and it was after drive. I don't think we'd had a very lucky drive actually with Steve and I, and we met some friends on quarantine and socialised, as one does. We decided to go on a bumble. I thought, no, there's something going on here. We want to look for Tandy. I know she's here. And as we were driving, the storm hit, the rain started, the thunder, the lightning. So we decided to turn back, and on our way back, we spotted the eye shine hiding in a bush at the bottom of quarantine. There's somebody there. And lo and behold, it was Ngala. And he just launched out of the thicket and took a lamb. And he just brought the lamb to the car. And just walked right up to the car with the lamb in his mouth, looked at us for a second or two, and then just walked off. And this was all happening in an electrical storm like this. It was so loud, so energetic, and I'll never forget it. A predator using the weather to their advantage. We found Tandy that night too. It was when Tandy spent a lot more time on Djuma. She doesn't anymore. I'm trying to think of other storm memories as we listen and watch the storm roll in. It's very, very common after a storm to wake up and find predators on kills. I remember when we had the really bad flooding last year. We couldn't go out one day. And we didn't go and drive because of the flooding. It was too dangerous to drive, and not really for us, but I guess for the roads, the terrain. And Tingana had killed right outside our camp. And when I say right outside our camp, I mean right outside the gate. And Tlalamba had killed. Sorry, I tell a lie. It was Tlalamba. And of course, Daddy rocked up and stole her kill. And the two of them were in the marula right outside camp. And they'd made the most of that big storm. We couldn't go running. We couldn't do anything. The two of them were pretty much almost inside camp. And that was the morning after a storm. I'm just loving this. Watching, listening, and talking about storms. We're going to sit here a little bit longer.
Sea Forest is a brand new experience on the WildEarth channel. Freedivers will explore the great African sea forest in Cape Town, while naturalists explain what we are seeing.
Like trees in a forest, these kelp provide food and shelter for many, many species.
Magical encounters with shy marine life, crustaceans, seals, and so much more will all bring a window of calm into an otherwise chaotic world.
Guiding as an industry has become, over time, more and more professional and more recognized as a profession rather than just a hobby. And so to be recognized for that professionality is really kind of it's humbling, really, to be able to say that. It's definitely birding is the thing that I feel most comfortable with in terms of categories that we have here. At least comfortable. I mean, you never know how you're going to shoot on a particular day. You can have a good day where you blast everything as you need to, in terms of the targets, and then you can have a shocker where you just, miss a single shot here or there, and that's basically the end of your day. To be considered for such an experience is really a powerful thing, and so I'm here just to have a lot of fun and experience what the competition's all about.
It just pretended to be dead. Oh, that was amazing. I can't. How do I hold this like that That is hands down the coolest.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
The bushwalk feed allows the camera person some creative license. This is my favorite style of shooting. You have to be mentally and physically prepared. You're shooting handheld in some very strange and contorted positions, always with a straight back, often in the squat position, low to the ground. The creativity comes down to the relationship and sync you have with your presenter. The more you understand each other, the more you'll be able to tell the story seamlessly.
We're still just watching the storm. It's been very quiet otherwise. There's not a single sound. I think everything is just hunkering down, waiting for this to arrive. I love the sound of it though. It feels like the whole reserve goes quiet when this is approaching. So very, very cool. I mean, I know it's not the best lightning I've ever seen, but it's the first proper one that we've had in a while. There's a cause for celebration after a long, hard winter. The animals will be very happy. Hopefully it's not one of those dry ones where it's all lightning and all bark and no actual bite. Hopefully there'll be a little rain that will come out of it, even though I'm not a huge fan of rain on game drive. It's good for the animals and good for the bush. The lightning is getting more and more and more intense and more frequent. I'm quite glad that we're finishing up shortly, because I don't really like being in an open car in lightning. It's the one thing that I don't really subscribe to. Don't mind doing the rain and all of that kind of thing, but when there's big bolts of lightning crashing down, it just feels like an unnecessary risk. So this shouldn't arrive before we get back to camp. I think we'll be okay. Bruce, you asked what is one of the most interesting things that I've learned as a guide?
I think important.
Important. Probably patience. Not everything happens on our kind of schedule, and the more you put pressure on something and the more you want something to happen and the more you try and force it, the less likely you are to succeed. So I think that's one of the more important things that I've learned, is that as a guide, patience is your biggest key, not only with the environment that you're in, but with the people that you take out. A lot of the time, you push yourself for long hours and many, many days in a row. Patience becomes something that gets worn. And a lot of the time you've got to remember that, while you might have seen an impala 7,000 times in your life, it could be that person's very first time. And it's important to take that into account and give them exactly the same attention and the same detail that you would give, or that you would have wanted yourself when it's your first time, or your first time you seeing something. So I think patience is probably even the biggest thing. And then, like I say, it relates not only to people but also into the bush, where I find when people get hyper focused on something and overly focused, there's a nice bolt, on what the outcome is, and so seeing like a specific animal or something like that it tends to work against them. I think when you start to show patience and you just enjoy everything that you are experiencing as you're going, I feel like that's when the bush gives you the most. So yeah, that would be my biggest thing that I've learned. Not typically a very patient person, so it's something that I've learned. And nowadays I'm pretty chilled with people and with the bush, and what comes, and what is will be. All right, David, shall we start rumbling home? Let's do that. I think we've got some nice bolts for all of you to look at. That'll be good. I think the other thing you learn as a guide is that sleep is a very valuable thing. You take it when you can get it. And we're fortunate here, we don't really get pushed too hard at WildEarth. Well, not anymore. At times we did. We used to do some pretty crazy shifts at some points. But nowadays we don't really do that. We have a pretty relaxed schedule, but some guys are working 17, 18 hours a day for 7 days a week, for 6 weeks at a time. They sometimes wear themselves out a little bit, and it's quite interesting. You don't really notice it, and it's something that has kind of been hitting me a little bit lately, is that you get well, I don't know, maybe it's just because it's the number of years that I've been doing it now, is that starting to get a bit of burnout this year. It's been on safari a lot this year. I think I've only been at home for about 20 days since May. Otherwise I've been in the bush. You start to get to the point where the hours and everything start to just catch up with you a little bit. So, yeah. Take the sleep when you get it. For those of you that are becoming guides, you'll learn very quickly that that's what you need to do. Anyway, we're gonna slowly head home. We're gonna try to get the cars out of the rain, get ourselves out of the lightning, and make sure that we don't end up damaging anybody or anything. Hopefully all of you have enjoyed this afternoon and enjoyed the sights and sounds. It seems like we did a lot of listening this afternoon, which is good. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. And I'm sure that we're all going to welcome a little bit of rain that's going to come our way this evening. I think we'll get rain. It certainly looks like we will. But anyway, from all of us, yeah, myself, Lauren, and JP, as well as all the CamOps and FC, thank you very much for joining us this evening. I hope, like I said, that you enjoyed it, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning on our sunrise safari.